Story 1: The Mirror Load. The cargo started screaming at 2:47 a.m. somewhere between Omaha and Des Moines on I-80. Robert Hayes had been hauling for Mitchell Freight for 19 years, and he'd transported everything from live chickens to radioactive medical waste, but he'd never heard anything like the sound coming from his trailer. It wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was both somehow and neither. A chorus of voices that rose and fell in perfect synchronization, each scream ending exactly when another began, creating an endless loop of sound that made his back teeth ache. He pulled onto the shoulder, hazards blinking orange into the January darkness. The screaming stopped the moment his wheels touched gravel, complete silence, not even wind. Robert sat in his cab, hands still gripping the wheel, watching his mirrors. Nothing behind him but empty highway and the faint glow of Omaha dying on the horizon. The manifest said mirrors. 73 antique mirrors, early 19th century, being transported from an estate sale in Lincoln to a private collector in Chicago. The shipper had been strange, a woman in her 80s who'd insisted on watching every mirror get loaded, her lips moving soundlessly as each one disappeared into the trailer. She'd touched Robert's arm as he climbed into his cab, her fingers ice cold through his sleeve. "Don't look back," she'd said. "Whatever you do, don't look back at them." He'd laughed it off then, he wasn't laughing now. Robert grabbed his flashlight and stepped into the cold. His breath came out in clouds that hung motionless in the air, not dispersing, just floating there like something solid. The temperature had dropped 20 degrees since he'd left Lincoln. His weather app said 38 degrees. His skin said something wrong. The trailer's rear doors were locked, seal unbroken. He checked anyway, rattling the handles, his flashlight beam catching the Department of Transportation numbers stenciled on the metal. Everything secure, everything normal. He walked the length of the trailer, checking the straps, the wheels, the undercarriage, nothing. The screaming had come from inside, he was sure of it. He'd heard it through the cab wall, through the steel and insulation, clear as if someone had been sitting in his passenger seat. Back in the cab, Robert pulled up the shipper's contact information. The number rang once, twice, then connected to a sound that made him drop his phone. Not a busy signal, not static. The screaming from his trailer coming through his phone's speaker, tinny but unmistakable. He ended the call, his hands shaking. The highway stretched empty in both directions. No other trucks. No cars. No lights except his own, and somehow that seemed wrong because I-80 was never empty, not at any hour, not on any night. There should be traffic. There should be someone. Robert shifted into gear and pulled back onto the highway. The moment his speedometer hit 55, the screaming started again. Louder this time, close enough that he could hear distinct voices in the chorus. A child, an old man, a woman who sounded like she was gargling glass, others he couldn't identify, sounds that had no human analog. He turned his radio up. Classic rock station, Creedence Clearwater Revival, volume maxed. The screaming cut through it like the music wasn't playing. He tried talk radio, NPR, country, nothing helped. The screaming was inside the cab now, inside his head, and when he glanced in his rearview mirror, he saw something that made him swerve hard enough to cross into the left lane. Faces in his mirror. Not reflected faces. Faces inside the mirror itself, pressed against the glass from the other side, mouths open, screaming. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, layered behind each other like photographs shuffled together, all trying to push forward to the surface. Robert's foot hit the brake. The truck shuddered, air brakes hissing, and the faces in the mirror lunged toward him. He could see details now. A woman with no eyes, just smooth skin where they should be. A man whose jaw hung by strips of meat. A child whose face was melting like wax, features sliding down and reforming and sliding again in an endless cycle. The speedometer hit 0. The faces stopped moving, frozen mid-lunge, and the screaming cut off so abruptly that the silence felt like a physical impact. Robert sat in the sudden quiet, his heart hammering so hard he could feel it in his throat. Sweat ran down his back despite the cold. As he couldn't keep driving, he couldn't deliver this load. He'd call Mitchell Freight, tell them mechanical problems, tell them anything, just get this trailer unhooked and leave it on the side of I-80 for someone else to deal with. He reached for his phone. It wasn't where he'd dropped it. It was on his dashboard screen facing him, and on the screen was a message in an app he'd never installed. Keep driving. Robert stared at the words. They didn't disappear. His P. Phone was locked. He could see the lock icon in the corner. But the message stayed visible, white text on black background burning into his retinas. He grabbed the phone to turn it off. The screen was ice cold, cold enough to hurt, and when his thumb touched it, the message changed. Chicago or nowhere. His thumb stuck to the screen, not from cold, from something else. He pulled and his skin stretched but didn't come free, like he was glued there, and the phone started getting colder, so cold his thumb went numb, then his hand, ice spreading up his arm in crystalline patterns he could see through his sleeve. Robert yanked hard and his skin tore, a strip of it staying on the phone screen, and he threw the device against the passenger window where it hit with a crack and fell to the floor. Blood welled from his thumb, dark and thick, but his hand was too numb to feel pain. Well, the message appeared on his GPS screen, same words, Chicago or nowhere. Then on his radio display. Then on his fuel gauge, the words somehow visible in the analog needle's movement. Robert looked in his driver's side mirror. His own face looked back, but it was wrong. His expression was wrong. He wasn't making that expression. The Robert in the mirror was smiling, and his real face wasn't smiling. He could feel his actual face tight with terror, but the reflection smiled wider and wider until the smile split his reflected cheeks, blood running down his mirror chin. As he looked away, the highway ahead was empty, still empty, wrong emptied. He shifted into gear because what else could he do? The engine caught, the truck rolled forward, and the screaming started again the moment he accelerated past 40 miles per hour. But this time he heard words in it, names, addresses, dates. Margaret Holloway, 1847, drowned. Thomas Chen, 1892, fell. Sarah and Sarah and Sarah, 1873, mirror sickness. Dozens of names, hundreds, pouring into his ears in that terrible chorus. The GPS recalculated his route. The new route didn't follow I-80. It curved north, onto roads Robert had never heard of, roads that didn't exist on any map he knew. But when he tried to stay on the highway, the wheel turned itself, smooth and inexorable, pulling him onto an exit that his headlights showed as crumbling asphalt disappearing into cornfields. He fought the wheel. It didn't matter. The truck turned anyway, his hands just along for the ride, and the exit ramp took him onto a two-lane road with no lines, no signs, nothing but darkness and the screaming and his mirrors, all of them now full of faces. Faces that watched him with empty eyes and bleeding mouths. The road stretched straight for miles. No curves, no intersections, no buildings, just corn on both sides, and the corn was wrong, brown and dead in January instead of harvested, stalks standing like skeletal fingers reaching for a black sky with no stars. Robert's damaged thumb had stopped bleeding, but it had started changing. The flesh was turning silver, reflective, like mercury or polished metal, and the silver was spreading, creeping up his hand in a network of veins that branched and split under his skin. He could feel it moving, feel it converting him into something else, something that belonged in a mirror instead of in the world. He tried to think about his daughter. Jessica, 14 years old, loved horses. He focused on her face, tried to hold it in his mind, but the details kept slipping away, replaced by the faces in his mirrors. He couldn't remember her eye color, couldn't remember her voice. The screaming was overwriting his memories, filling his head with names and dates and causes of death, hundreds of years of people who'd looked into these mirrors and never looked away. As the road curved, finally, a gentle bend to the right and beyond it a building, not a truck stop, not a rest area, something else. It was white or had been white, now gray with age and weather. 3 stories tall, windows dark, a sign out front in letters he couldn't read, letters that hurt to look at, that seemed to shift and crawl when he tried to focus on them. As the truck's brakes engaged on their own, Robert's foot wasn't on the pedal, but the truck slowed anyway, pulling into the building's parking lot, gravel crunching under 20 tons of vehicle and cargo that wouldn't stop screaming. The engine died, the headlights died, everything died, and in the sudden darkness Robert could see that the building's windows weren't empty. They were full of light, candlelight, flickering and orange, and in that light he saw figures moving. Dozens of them, hundreds, all identical, all moving in perfect synchronization. As all of them were hymns. Different versions of Robert Hayes, wearing different clothes, different ages, but all unmistakably him, and they were all looking out at him. And they were all smiling the same smile his reflection had smiled. The smile that split cheeks and bled. The trailer doors opened. He heard them, the metallic sea. Zlang echoing across the empty lot, and he knew without looking that the mirrors were coming out. He could hear them sliding across the trailer bed, glass scraping on wood, moving on their own, and when he forced himself to look in his rearview mirror, he saw them floating out of the trailer one by one, 73 antique mirrors drifting through the air like leaves, like they weighed nothing, arranging themselves in a circle around his truck. The faces in the mirrors weren't screaming anymore. They were waiting. Robert tried his door, locked. He tried the passenger door, locked. The windows wouldn't roll down, the truck had become a cage, and outside the mirrors were getting closer, tightening the circle, and in each one he could see himself. Not his reflection, himself. Different versions, different lives, all the Robert Hayeses that could have been, should have been, would have been if he'd made different choices, taken different routes, lived different lives. One mirror showed him as a doctor. One showed him dead in a car accident at 19. One showed him with a wife who wasn't Linda, children who weren't Jessica. One showed him old, 90 or more, dying in a bed surrounded by strangers. One showed him as something not human anymore, something with too many eyes and hands that bent wrong. All possible Roberts, all real, all trapped. The mirror directly in front of his windshield moved closer. In it, he saw himself sitting in his truck, exactly as he was now, same position, same clothes, same terror on his face. But this Robert was holding something, a phone, and on the phone screen a message, "Your turn." The Robert in the mirror raised the phone to the glass. The message grew larger, filling the mirror's surface, and then it broke through, the words becoming three-dimensional, punching out of the glass into the real world, into Robert's cab, and he felt them hit his chest like a physical weight. His reflection climbed out of the mirror. It moved wrong, joints bending in directions joints shouldn't bend, body compressing and stretching as it pulled itself through the glass. And when it was out, standing on his hood, it looked at him through the windshield with his eyes and spoke with his voice. But the words came from everywhere at once, from all the mirrors, all the possible Roberts speaking in unison. "We've been waiting for you," they said. "There's a space here, your space. It's been empty for so long." The silver had spread up Robert's arm to his shoulder. He could see it through his shirt, his skin glowing mercury bright, and he understood now what the mirrors did. They didn't reflect. They collected. Every person who'd looked into them had left something behind, a piece of themselves, a possible self, and over centuries those pieces had grown, had become aware, had become hungry for completion. The mirrors didn't want to go to Chicago. Chicago was just a word, a direction, a way to keep him driving until the silver consumed him completely, until he was reflective enough to store, until he could join all the other possible people in their possible lives, forever looking out from the other side of the glass. His reflection smiled at him. "Don't worry," it said. "It doesn't hurt, you just stop being there and start being here. Everywhere, everyone, every choice you didn't make, you'll make. Every life you didn't live, you'll live, all of them, forever." The silver reached his neck, his throat. He tried to scream, but the sound came out wrong, metallic, echoing, and when it echoed back to him, it was the same scream he'd heard from the trailer, and he realized that wasn't cargo screaming. It was other drivers, other Roberts and Margarets and Thomases and Sarahs, everyone who'd hauled the mirror load. As everyone who'd looked back. The silver covered his face, his eyes, and the last thing Robert Hayes saw with human eyes was his reflection climbing through his windshield, taking his place in the driver's seat, settling in with a sigh of satisfaction. Then the silver completed its work and Robert stopped being a man and became a surface. Reflective, perfect. Ready to show the world all the things it could be, all the choices it could make, all the lives it could live. In the building, the figures stopped moving. One by one, they turned away from the windows and walked deeper inside, into rooms Robert couldn't see, rooms that existed only in reflection, only in possibility. The truck's engine started. The headlights came on. Robert's reflection, or something wearing Robert's face, shifted into gear and pulled back onto the road that didn't exist, heading for Chicago, where a collector waited for 73 mirrors and never asked where the drivers went. Behind the truck, in the circle of mirrors still floating in the parking lot, a new face appeared in the antique glass. Robert Hayes, trapped in silver, screaming names and dates and causes of death to no one, to everyone, to the next driver WH. So would make the mistake of hauling the mirror load. The mirrors collapsed back into their trailer, the doors closed, the seal reformed. As everything looked normal, everything was ready for the next route. A story, too. The exit sign for Perdido Springs appeared in my headlights for the 19th time, and I knew something in my brain had finally broken. Not metaphorically. I could feel it breaking, like ice cracking under pressure, somewhere behind my left eye. I'm Victoria Ramirez, and I've been driving the same stretch of Interstate 40 through New Mexico for 6 hours without moving forward. The odometer keeps climbing, now reading 1,847 miles since I left Flagstaff, but the same 63-mile markers keep cycling past my window. Mile 167 through 230, over and over, like a vinyl record with the needle stuck in one groove. The first 3 times I thought I was tired. By the 7th I knew I wasn't. By the 12th I started screaming. It's 3:47 a.m. according to my phone, but it's been 3:47 a.m. for what feels like hours. The battery's at 68%. It's been at 68% since this started. My coffee went cold exactly once at mile marker 183 during the fourth loop, and it stayed the same temperature ever since. Not getting colder, not warming up. Frozen at lukewarm. The road is empty, completely empty. Not a single other vehicle in either direction, which is unusual but not impossible for this stretch during the graveyard shift. What is impossible is the lack of anything else. No animals crossing, no insects hitting the windshield, no birds in the pre-dawn sky. Just endless asphalt and the same sequence of mile markers emerging from darkness like tombstones. I tried stopping during loop number 9, pulled off at the rest area near mile marker 201. The parking lot had 7 cars in it, a red Subaru, a silver Honda, a white Tesla, a black pickup truck, a blue minivan, a gray sedan, and a green Jeep. I memorized them because by then I was looking for anything to prove I wasn't insane. When I came back through on loop 10, the same 7 cars were there, same positions, same vehicles. I pulled in again, parked, got out. My boots crunched on gravel that felt real. The air was cold and smelled like diesel and creosote. The vending machines hummed. Everything seemed normal. I approached the red Subaru, looked in the window. A woman's purse sat on the passenger seat, a pair of sunglasses on the dash, a child's car seat in the back. I walked to the next car. The Honda had a parking pass hanging from the mirror dated March 3, 2024, tomorrow's date. The Tesla's screen was on, frozen on a map showing a route to Albuquerque. The pickup truck had a coffee cup in the holder, steam rising from it. A steam. A fresh coffee steaming in an abandoned truck. I ran back to my rig, pulled out onto the highway, foot hard on the accelerator, pushed my Freightliner up to 85, then 90, then 95. The mile markers kept coming. 167, 168, 169, same as always, same speed of passage. No matter how fast I drove, they appeared at the same intervals. That's when I started really panicking. I tried calling 911. The call connected, I heard the ringtone, but no one picked up. It just rang and rang and rang. I tried my dispatcher. Same thing, my wife Teresa. Same, my brother. Same. The phone worked, the signal showed full bars, but every call just rang into eternity. Then I tried calling my own numbers. It rang once, I answered. Hello, I said. Hello, I heard my own voice say, tinny through the speaker. This isn't funny, I said. Who is this? This isn't funny, my voice repeated. Who is this? Not an echo, the words came after mine, not during, like someone playing them back. Like someone had recorded me and was responding with my own questions. Stop it, I said. Stop it, my voice said. So I hung up, threw the phone onto the passenger seat, focused on driving. Mile marker 189, then 190, then 191. I knew what was coming. Mile marker 201 and the rest area with the 7 cars and the steaming coffee. But when I reached mile marker 201, the rest area was gone. Just empty desert, no building, no parking lot, no cars like it had never existed. I slammed the brakes. The Freightliner shuddered to a stop right there on the highway, half on the shoulder. I sat there breathing hard, hands shaking on the wheel, checked my logbook. According to the GPS data I'd been recording, I'd stopped at that rest area 47 minutes ago. The GPS showed it right there on the map, labeled and everything. But outside my window, there was only sand and scrub brush and darkness. I started driving again. What else could I do? Mile marker 202, then 203. I knew the sequence now, knew it better than I knew my own phone number. At 207, there would be a slight rise in the road. At 214, an overpass. At 223, a bridge over a dry wash. Every detail exactly the same, loop after loop after loop. Except now things were starting to change. At mile marker 208, there was a hitchhiker on the shoulder. There hadn't been a hitchhiker before. I'd driven past mile marker 208 18 times, and the shoulder had been empty every time. But now a figure stood there, thumb out, illuminated by my headlights. As I got closer, I saw it was a woman, young, maybe 25, jeans and a hoodie. She turned to face my approaching truck, and I saw her face. Oh, it was my face. Not similar, not like a sister clothes. Identical. Same sharp nose, same scar on the left eyebrow from a childhood bike accident, same slightly crooked front tooth. She even wore her hair the same way I did, pulled back in a ponytail. I didn't stop. I drove past at 70 miles per hour, staring at her in my mirrors. She watched me go, made no attempt to chase or shout, just stood there, thumb out, waiting. At mile marker 215, there was another hitchhiker. Also me. Same face, same clothes, same posture. At mile marker 219, three of me stood together. By mile marker 227, there were dozens. They lined both sides of the highway, all wearing identical clothes, all with their thumbs out, all turning to watch as I passed. Silent, patient, multiplying. As I pushed the accelerator down, the engine roared. Mile marker 228, then 229, then 230, the end of the sequence. Any second now, I'd hit mile marker 167 again and loop back to the beginning. Mile marker 230, one appeared in my headlights. I'd broken through. Relief flooded through me so intensely I almost started crying. I'd escaped. Whatever nightmare I'd been trapped in, I'd escaped. Different mile markers meant different road, meant I was moving forward again, meant. Mile marker 232 was covered in blood. Not metaphorically. The white sign with its black numbers was streaked with fresh red blood running down in rivulets pooling at the base of the post. My headlights caught every detail, the viscosity, the color, the way it hadn't dried yet. Mile marker 233 had more blood, and something else. Meat, chunks of tissue stuck to the sign hanging off the edges. I recognized it because I'd grown up on a ranch. I knew what raw flesh looked like. Mile marker 234 had bone fragments. Mile marker 235 had what looked like an entire human hand nailed to the center of the sign. The fingers were spread out, palm forward, like it was waving hello. I was going to be sick. I could feel vomit rising in my throat, but I kept driving. If I stopped now, I'd never start again. The mile markers kept coming, each one decorated with more pieces of a body being systematically disassembled. A foot, a segment of spine, loops of intestine, a jaw with teeth still attached. At mile marker 251, I saw an entire torso, gutted and displayed like a hunting trophy. At mile marker 267, just ahead. My head. My face looked back at me from where it had been mounted on the sign, eyes open, mouth frozen in mid-scream. My ponytail hung down behind the sign. Blood still dripped from the severed neck. I screamed, jerked the wheel. The Freightliner swerved across both lanes, tires squealing. I overcorrected, felt the trailer start to jackknife. Somehow regained control, straightened out. Kept driving because stopping meant looking at that thing, that impossible thing, meant accepting what I'd just seen. Mile marker 268. Mile marker 269. Mile marker 270. All clean, no blood, no body parts. Just normal reflective signs marking distance along a normal highway. At mile marker 275, my phone rang. I grabbed it without thinking, answered it without checking the caller ID. Victoria, Teresa's voice, my wife, calling from our home in Santa Fe 300 miles away. Teresa, oh God, Teresa, something's wrong, I'm trapped, I've been. Victoria, where are you? She sounded scared, genuinely terrified. I-40 somewhere in New Mexico, I don't know exactly, the mile markers keep. Victoria, you need to listen to me, her voice was shaking. Are you alone in the truck? Yes, I'm alone, why? I'll check the passenger seat. I didn't want to look, every instinct screamed not to look, but my eyes went there anyway. Someone was sitting in my passenger seat. It was me, the hitchhiker me. She sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, staring straight ahead through the windshield. Her chest wasn't moving. She wasn't breathing. Victoria, Teresa's voice from the phone. Did you check? There's, Teresa, there's someone in the truck with me. I know, Teresa said. She's been there the whole time. The temperature in the cab dropped 20 degrees in an instant. My breath came out in visible clouds. The thing in my passenger seat slowly turned its head to look at me. How long? I whispered into the phones. Since Flagstaff, Teresa said. You called me when you left the truck stop. You said you'd picked up a hitchhiker. You said she looked exactly like you. You were laughing about it. You thought it was funny. I had no memory of this. No memory of stopping for a hitchhiker. No memory of calling Teresa. Auntie. That was 6 hours ago, Teresa continued. Your last 3 calls have been getting stranger. You kept saying the same things, describing the same mile markers. I called the highway patrol. They can't find you. Your GPS shows you're still in Flagstaff. The thing wearing my face smiled at me. Not a human smile, too wide, too many teeth. Teresa, I started. The call ended, not disconnected. Ended. The screen showed no record of the call at all. Hello, Victoria, the thing said. Its voice was my voice, but wrong. Like someone had recorded me speaking and played it back at slightly the wrong speed. I couldn't drive, couldn't think. My hands were frozen on the wheel. You picked me up at mile marker 167, it said. Don't you remember? Mile marker 167, where the loop started. I never stopped at mile marker 167. Yes, you did. You've stopped there 18 times now, every loop. You let me in, you always let me in. You forget every time, but you always let me in. Mile marker 280 appeared in the headlights, then 281. Well, what do you want? I managed to ask. To go home, it said. We're almost there. Where's home? It pointed ahead through the windshield. Mile marker 312. I checked the odometer. It read 2,847 miles. I'd driven 1,000 miles in a 63-mile loop. The math didn't work. None of this worked. What happens at mile marker 312? You'll see. The mile markers kept coming. 285, 290, 295, each one bringing us closer to whatever waited ahead. I thought about jumping out, opening the door and throwing myself onto the highway at 70 miles per hour. Broken bones had to be better than this. But my hands wouldn't leave the wheels. Mile marker 300. The thing beside me started humming. I recognized the tune, a lullaby my mother used to sing. How did it know that? How could it possibly know that? Mile marker 305. Almost home, it said. Mile marker 310s. Up ahead I saw lights, lots of lights, like a town, but there hadn't been a town on this stretch of highway. I knew this route, nothing but desert for 100 miles in either direction. Mile marker 311s. The lights resolved into shapes. Buildings, a truck stop, but wrong, everything slightly off. The angles didn't quite work. The dimensions seemed to shift as I looked at them, and in the parking lot. The trucks, dozens of trucks, maybe 100, all Freightliners, all the same model as mine. Mile marker 312s. Well, we're home, the thing said. My truck pulled into the lot on its own. I wasn't steering anymore. My hands were still on the wheel, but they weren't controlling anything. The Freightliner navigated between the rows of identical trucks, moving toward an empty spot in the back. As we passed each truck, I saw the drivers, all sitting motionless in their cabs, all women, all with my face. Some looked fresh, others looked old, decomposing, but all wearing the same expression of frozen terror. My truck backed into the empty spot with precision I'd never managed before. The engine shut off. The door locks clicked. Thank you for the ride, the thing said. It opened its door and stepped out. Through my window, I watched it walk toward the truck stop entrance. Other things came out to meet it, all wearing different faces. None of them quite right, moving with that same wrong rhythm. One of them looked back at me and waved. The sun started to rise, not in the east, in the north. It climbed up from below the horizon in the wrong direction, casting purple shadows that bent at impossible angles. I tried the door, locked, tried the windows, they wouldn't roll down, tried to break the glass with my thermos, but it bounced off like the windshield was made of steel. My phone buzzed, a text message from Teresa. Are you okay? You've been parked for 6 hours. Should I call someone? I checked the time, 3:47 a.m. Well, the battery was at 68%. Outside, another Freightliner pulled into the lot. I watched it park. Watched the driver, a woman I didn't recognize, sit frozen in her cab, staring at the rows of identical trucks with growing horror. I tried to scream to warn her, but no sound came out. My phone buzzed again, another text from Teresa. Are you okay? You've been parked for 6 hours. Should I call someone? I checked the time, 3:47 a.m. Well, the battery was at 68%. I'm still here, still parked at mile marker 312, still watching the sun rise in the wrong direction, still receiving the same text message every few minutes, still trying to scream warnings that nobody can hear. And every day, new trucks arrive. New drivers with new faces, all making the same mistake I made, whatever mistake that was. I can't remember picking up the hitchhiker, but I must have. At mile marker 167, I must have stopped, I must have let it in. And soon, maybe in another hour, maybe in another day, maybe in another 1,000 loops of the same frozen moment, I'll forget I'm here at all. Then I'll be ready to stand by the roadside, to wait with my thumb out, to climb into someone else's truck and ride with them through the loops until they arrive here too. We're always looking for more drivers. There's always room for one more truck in the lot. Story 3, The Cargo That Spoke. The sealed container started whispering my daughter's name at mile marker 47, and I knew I should have refused the load. I'm James Kowalski, hauling refrigerated freight out of Portland, and I've pulled some weird cargo in my 23 years behind the wheel: medical waste, classified government equipment, even a shipment of living bees once. But I'd never hauled anything that came with a $10,000 bonus just for not opening it. The dispatcher called it a specialized biological sample. The paperwork listed it as organic research material, temperature-controlled, handle with extreme care. The container was the size of a coffin, loaded into my reefer unit at a warehouse on the outskirts of Portland at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Two guys in hazmat suits did the loading. They didn't speak, didn't make eye contact, just secured the container, checked the temperature gauge 3 times, and left. My route: Portland to a research facility outside Boise, Idaho, 427 miles. Straight shot on I-84, easy money. Except now the container was whispering Emma, and Emma was my daughter's name, and my daughter had been dead for 6 months. The first time I heard it, I thought I'd imagined it, just the wind or the road noise or my own guilt playing tricks. Emma had died in February car accident, black ice. She was 23, and I heard her name in everything now, in the radio static, in the brake hiss, in the sound of rain on the trailer roof. But this was different. This was her voice. "Daddy," the whisper came again, filtering through the wall between the cab and the trailer. "Daddy, I'm cold." My hands went numb on the wheel. The Peterbilt drifted toward the shoulder. I corrected, pulled back into my lane, hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the wheel. It wasn't real, couldn't be real. Grief, hallucination, stress, lack of sleep. I'd been pushing too hard since Emma died, taking back-to-back loads to avoid going home to an empty house where her bedroom still smelled like her coconut shampoo. "Daddy, please, I'm so cold." I grabbed my phone, called my wife Sarah. It went to voicemail, called my dispatcher, same thing, called my brother, voicemail. It was 1:30 a.m. Everyone was asleep. Normal people were asleep. I was alone on a dark highway with a refrigerated container that was speaking with my dead daughter's voice. The temperature gauge for the reefer unit read 34 degrees Fahrenheit, exactly where it should be. I'd checked it at the warehouse, checked it again when I stopped for fuel in the Dalles, checked it obsessively every 15 minutes since. The unit was functioning perfectly. "It hurts, Daddy, the cold hurts." I bit my tongue until I tasted blood, pain to ground myself in reality. This wasn't happening, this was trauma. This was my brain breaking from grief. I needed to pull over, call someone, get help. But the bonus: $10,000 for a simple delivery. $10,000 I needed to pay for Emma's funeral costs, which insurance hadn't covered. $10,000 that came with one rule: do not open the container. "Oh, please, Daddy, please let me out." Mile marker 53, then 54. The highway stretched ahead, empty in both directions, no other vehicles, no lights except my own headlights cutting through darkness. I turned on the radio, loud, found a classic rock station, cranked it up until the cab shook with bass, tried to drown out the voice. Through the music, I heard it. Daddy, I can't breathe. I punched the power button. Silence. Just the engine rumble and the road noise and my ragged breathing. The cold, it's in my lungs, I can't breathe. This wasn't happening, my daughter was dead, I'd seen her body. I'd identified her at the morgue. I'd watched them lower her casket into the ground, she was gone. But what if she wasn't? The thought came unbidden, insidious. What if they'd made a mistake? What if she'd been in a coma, not dead, and they'd buried her alive, and somehow she'd ended up in this container and… No, that was insane. That wasn't how any of this worked. Daddy, I'm scared. I slammed the brakes. The Peterbilt shuddered to a stop in the middle of the highway. I sat there, chest heaving, sweat running down my face despite the November cold. The smart thing was to call the police, report this, let them deal with it. But I'd signed a contract. A very specific contract that said I wouldn't open the container under any circumstances, wouldn't allow anyone else to inspect it, wouldn't deviate from the route or the timeline. Breaking that contract meant losing the bonus. Maybe worse. The warehouse guys had made it clear this was sensitive material. Classified government. A people who dealt with classify. Zed government cargo didn't take kindly to breaches of contract. Daddy, please, I don't want to die agains. Oh, agains. Oh, that word, agains. My hand was on the door handle before I realized I'd moved. I was outside, boots hitting asphalt, walking toward the back of the trailer. The reefer unit hummed, pumping cold air. My breath clouded in the night air. The container was accessible through a side door. I'd been given the key at the warehouse, a small silver key on a chain with a biohazard symbol. I'd put it in my pocket and tried not to think about it. Now I pulled it out. Daddy, hurry, please hurry. My hands shook as I unlocked the side door. It opened with a hiss of cold air. Inside, the container sat on a pallet strapped down with industrial restraints. It was maybe 7 feet long, 3 feet wide, 2 feet deep, white metal. No markings except a serial number and a biohazard symbol. And a lock, a heavy padlock securing the lid. The key around my neck wouldn't fit that lock. Different key, different lock. Let me out, Emma's voice said, not whispered now, clear, like she was standing right next to me. Please, Daddy, let me out. I circled the container looking for what? Some explanation, some way this made sense. On the far side, I found it. A small display panel I hadn't noticed before. Digital readout showing temperature, pressure, and something else. A timer. It was counting down. A 3:47:22. A 3:47:21. A 3:47:20. I stared at it. What happened when it reached 0? What was this thing? Daddy, Emma's voice came from right behind me now. I spun around. Nothing, empty trailer, just me and the container and the cold. As I'm not in the box, Daddy. I turned back, the voice was coming from everywhere now, from the walls, from the air itself. I'm all around you, in the cold, in the air you're breathing, I've been here the whole time. The temperature dropped, I could see it on the display, 34 degrees to 32, to 30, to 25. The air hurt to breathe now, searing my lungs. They put me in the container, Daddy, but I got out. I always get out when it's cold enough. That's what they're studying, how I move through cold, how I exist in it. Ice formed on the walls, on my eyebrows, on my beard. I died in the cold, remember, the black ice. The car went into the river. The water was 31 degrees. I drowned in ice water, Daddy, and something found me down there, something that lives in cold places. It took my shape, my voice, my memories. I backed toward the door, but it had frozen shut. I sealed it closed. I'm not your daughter, the voice said. I'm what your daughter became, and I'm very hungry. The container started rattling, the straps holding it down strained, stretched. One snapped with a sound like a gunshot. They've been moving me around, warehouse to warehouse, studying me, but I'm getting stronger. Each time they cool me down, I can spread further. Last time I filled a whole building. Froze 17 people solid. They had to bring in flamethrowers to stop me. Another strap snapped. This time, I think I can fill a highway. The padlock on the container cracked. Pieces of frozen metal fell away. I threw myself at the frozen door, slamming my shoulder into it. The ice cracked. I hit it again. And again. My shoulder screamed in pain, but the ice was giving way. Behind me, the container lid burst open. A cold erupted from it, real cold. The kind of cold that exists in deep space. The kind that stops molecular movement, the kind that shouldn't exist on Earth. I smashed through the door and fell out onto the highway, scrambled to my feet, started running. Behind me, frost spread from the trailer across the asphalt. I watched it in my side mirror as I ran, a growing circle of white, expanding at impossible speed. It caught a patch of grass on the shoulder and the grass flash froze, shattering into crystal. I made it to the cabs, got the door open, key in the ignition, engine start. The Peterbilt roared to life. I threw it in gear, released the brakes, and punched the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, trailer still attached, reefer unit still running. In my mirrors, I watched the frost spread across the highway behind me. It was chasing me, actually chasing me, moving faster than anything that cold should move. As I pushed the truck to 80, 85, 90, the frost kept coming. It caught a billboard. The entire structure flash froze and collapsed, falling in slow motion like it was made of glass. Ahead lights a town, Baker City, maybe 3 miles. The frost was gaining. I grabbed my phone, tried 911, no signal, tried again, nothing. The cold was interfering with everything electronic. 2 miles to town. The frost was maybe half a mile behind me now, visible in my mirrors as a line of white consuming everything. Trees shattered as it passed. A semi parked at a rest area turned white and the tires exploded. 1 miles. A quarter miles. I saw the first buildings, houses aghast. A station all dark, everyone asleep. The frost hit the first house and climbed the walls like it was alive. I laid on the horn, constant blast, warning everyone, wake up, get out, runs. Lights started coming on in windows. I made it to the center of town before the frost caught my trailer. I felt it the moment it touched, a jolt like being hit from behind. The trailer started to freeze. The reefer unit screamed, straining, and then died with a sound like a dying animal. I hit the release for the fifth wheel. The trailer disconnected, slowed, stopped in the middle of Main Street. I kept going in just the cab, accelerating away. Behind me, the frost spread from the trailer in all directions. It took the whole town in maybe 90 seconds. Every building, every car, every tree, everything turned white and still. So I drove until I hit I-84 heading west, drove until dawn, drove until the temperature climbed and I couldn't see my breath anymore. At a truck stop in Ontario, Oregon, I pulled over and collapsed, called my dispatcher. Kowalski, where the hell is my load? He said. It's gone, I said. There was an accident. The container broke open. You need to send someone to Baker City. Well, what kind of accident? Just send someone and bring flamethrowers. Oh, he hung up on me. I sat in my cab and shook for 2 hours. The news started reporting it that afternoon. Freak freeze event in Baker City, Idaho. Entire town encased in ice. Authorities investigating. Residents evacuated. No casualties reported. No casualties, everyone got out. The horn had warned them in times. But the town was gone, just a frozen memorial to what I'd carried, what I'd almost unleashed everywhere. My phone rang, unknown numbers. I answered. Mr. Kowalski, a woman's voice, professional, cold. We need to discuss your breach of contract. I didn't open the containers. Oh, but you stopped. You went into the trailer. These actions violated the terms. That thing killed a whole town. That town was evacuated safely. The situation is contained. The specimen will be recovered and transported by specialized team. However, you are now aware of classified material. This requires certain protocols. What protocols? You'll need to come in for debriefing. There's a facility in Boise. We'll send you the address. And if I don't? Silence on the line. Then, we know where your wife lives, Mr. Kowalski. We know she's been having trouble sleeping since your daughter died. We know she takes medication. We know exactly what kind. The line went dead. 2 days later, I drove to the facility in Boise. They put me in a white room and asked me questions for 6 hours. What did I see? What did I hear? What did the entity say to me? I told them everything. They gave me a check for $10,000 and a non-disclosure agreement. Sign it or disappear. Those were my options. I signed. But here's what I didn't tell them. The thing in the container wasn't lying about being Emma. I know because of one thing it said, one detail no one else could have known. When Emma was 7, she told me about a dream she had, about drowning in ice water and becoming something that lived in the cold. She described it in perfect detail, how she would spread through the frozen air, how she would take shapes, how she would be hungry. I'd forgotten about that dream until the thing spoke to me in the trailer. But Emma never forgot. She knew even then what she would become. And sometimes on cold nights when frost forms on my windshield, I see patterns in it. Familiar patterns, letters forming in the ice. Just 2 words, miss you. I don't haul refrigerated loads anymore. Story 4, the station that moves. The fuel pump clicked off at 47.3 gallons, and when I looked up, I was parked at a different station than where I'd started. The same pump, same truck, same nozzle in my tank, but the building had changed. The Chevron sign now read Texaco. The convenience store windows that had been plastered with beer advertisements were now clean glass showing a different layout inside. The price on the pump had dropped from $3.89 to $2.14. I'm Marcus Chen, and I've been running routes through Wyoming for 9 years. I know every fuel stop between Cheyenne and Rock Springs. I know them so well I could navigate to them blind. And this station shouldn't exist. I'd pulled in 20 minutes ago. A chevron just off exit 235 on I-80, maybe 40 miles east of Rawlins. It was 2 a.m. on a Thursday, October 19th, 2023. The station had been empty except for a bored clerk visible through the windows and one other truck parked at the diesel pumps on the far side. Now it was a Texaco. The other truck was gone. The clerk was different, or maybe it was the same person but older, younger. I couldn't tell from this distance. And the sky was wrong. When I'd started pumping fuel, it had been a clear night. Stars everywhere, moon 3/4 full. Now clouds covered everything, thick and low, and the air smell. Zed like snow even though it was mid-October, and way too early for snow in this part of Wyoming. As I carefully withdrew the nozzle from my tank, placed it back on the pump. My receipt printed, I grabbed it. The date said July 3rd, 2019. As my hands went numb, I read it again. July 3rd, 2019, 4 years ago, but that was impossible. I looked at my phone. October 19th, 2023, 2:17 a.m. I looked at my truck's dashboard display. Same date. But the receipt insisted it was July 3rd, 2019. As I walked toward the convenience store, each step feeling like moving through water. Through the windows, I could see the clerk at the register. Young guy, early 20s, reading a magazine. As I got closer, I could make out the magazine cover. It's Entertainment Weekly. Tiger Woods on the cover, celebrating a tournament wins. Tiger Woods hadn't been on Entertainment Weekly in years. As the door chimed as I entered, the clerk looked up, smiled. Hey there, everything okay with the pumps? What's the date? I asked. He looked at me strangely. July 3rd, why? What year? Now he looked concerned. You feeling okay, buddy? It's 2019, you want me to call someone? I backed toward the door, bumped into a display of chips, Doritos in a bag design they'd stopped using 3 years ago. The collision knocked several bags to the floor. Hey, it's okay, the clerk said, coming around the counter. Just pick those up, no big deal. As I bolted out the door across the lot to my Kenworth, got in, locked the doors. The clerk stood in the doorway, watching me, looking confused and concerned. I started the engine, checked my mirrors, pulled out of the parking spot, and drove directly into 2016. The transition was instantaneous. One moment I was leaving the Texaco, the next I was entering a Shell station that occupied the exact same physical space. The same concrete, the same pump islands, but different branding, different building design, different everything. A different semi was parked where mine had been. I watched in my mirror as it sat there, driver visible in the cab, talking on a phone. He didn't see me, didn't react to my truck appearing out of nowhere. Because I wasn't really there, not in his version, I was somewhere else, some other time. I kept driving. The highway existed, I-80, same as always, same mile markers, same landscape. But as I drove, things kept changing. A billboard would advertise a movie from 2015, then 2020, then 2008. An exit sign would direct me to a business that had closed years ago or hadn't opened yet. As I passed a rest area, pulled in. The parking lot had different vehicles depending on which direction I looked. To my left, a Tesla Model S that wouldn't be released for another year. To my right, a Buick from the 1970s with rust around the wheel wells and a driver who looked at me with confusion. As I got out of my truck, walked toward the bathroom building, the doors said men and women in Arial font. Halfway there, they switched to Times New Roman, then back to Arial, then to some decorative font I didn't recognize. Inside the men's room, I stared at myself in the mirror. Same face. Same gray beard I'd been meaning to trim. Same scar on my forehead from a loading dock accident in 2018. But in the reflection, the bathroom kept changing. The tiles would be white, then beige, then white again. The soap dispenser would be automatic, then manual, then gone entirely. As I splashed water on my face, the water was cold, then warm, then scalding hot. I jerked my hands back. "Oh, you shouldn't be here," a voice said. As I spun around, a man stood near the door. Old, maybe 70, wearing coveralls with a patch that said Bud. He looked at me with something between pity and fear. I don't understand what's happening," I said. "Well, the station," Bud said. "You stopped there at the wrong time." "Oh, what? There's spots along this highway, places where time gets thin. Most people they pass right through never notice. But sometimes someone stops at exactly the wrong moment when the layers are aligned and they fall through." "Oh, this is insane." "Yeah, it is." Bud walked to the sink, washed his hands. "I've been here for 37 years, stopped at that station in 1986, been unstuck ever since." "Oh, 37 years. The time's different when you're between. Sometimes I experience a day, sometimes a decade, but I can't leave. Can't get back to my own when." So I backed toward the door. No, there has to be a way. I need to get home. My wife is expecting me in Cheyenne tomorrow. I have a delivery. Bud smiled sadly. "That's what I said. Had a load of furniture going to Denver, never made it. My wife thinks I abandoned her. Filed for divorce in 1989. Remarried in 1992. Died in 2007. "Oh, you're lying." As I watched her funeral, stood in the back of the church, tried to talk to people. No one could see me or hear me or touch me. I'm not in their when, I'm not in anyone's when. As I ran out of the bathroom across the parking lot to my TR. Zuck got in, started the engine, pulled back onto the highway. The road stretched ahead. Behind me in the mirrors, the rest area was a Shell station, then a Conoco, then just empty desert with no buildings at all. I drove for hours, days, I'm not sure. Time lost meaning. My fuel gauge never moved below half. My phone battery stayed at 42%. The clock on my dashboard spun forward and backward randomly 3:47 a.m., then 9:15 p.m., then 6:23 a.m., then midnight. I passed other trucks. Sometimes they saw me, swerved to avoid me like I'd appeared out of nowhere. Sometimes they drove right through me like I was a ghost. Both options terrified me equally. At mile marker 187, I saw myself. Another Kenworth, same model, same company livery, same license plate. I watched it pass going the opposite direction. Got a glimpse of the driver. It was me, but older, maybe 50 instead of 42. Grayer, thinner, with an expression of absolute despair. As I tried to turn around, tried to chase myself. But the highway wouldn't let me. Every on-ramp I took led me further east, further from where I wanted to go. Until I found the loop. It started at mile marker 200. I passed it going 70, and 15 minutes later I passed it again. Not a similar marker. The same one. Same graffiti on the back, same bullet holes in the reflective surface. This was different from being unstuck in time. This was being stuck in space. The same 50-mile loop over and over. But the landscape kept changing as I drove it. Sometimes daylight, sometimes night. Sometimes summer, sometimes winter. Sometimes the Wyoming desert I knew, sometimes a landscape that looked vaguely post-apocalyptic, dead trees, abandoned vehicles, buildings in ruins. I saw other trucks in the loop, dozens of them, hundreds maybe, all circling endlessly. All with drivers who had that same expression I'd seen on my older self's face. At mile marker 217, I found the message. Someone had written on the pavement in white paint, letters 10 feet tall, find the station when it's both. Both what? I drove the loop 17 more times watching for the station. It appeared and disappeared randomly, sometimes Chevron, sometimes Texaco, sometimes Shell, sometimes brands I didn't recognize. Then on the 18th loop I saw it. The sign said Chevron on one half, Texaco on the other, split right down the middle, both. The building was the same, half the architecture from one brand, half from the other. The pumps were both colors. As I pulled in, the lot was full of trucks, maybe 40 of them, all parked, all empty. I got out, walked to the store. Inside, the clerk was Bud. "Oh, you found it," he said. "On both," I said. The moment when two times occupy the same space. When 2019 and 2023 are happening simultaneously. When you can choose. I'll choose what? Which timeline to return to? He gestured to a door behind the counter. Through there, pick a date, any date, but you only get one choice. Choose wrong and you're stuck there forever. As I walked to the door, opened it. Inside was a room full of calendars, hundreds of them. Every year from 1950 to 2050, maybe beyond, all showing different dates circled in red. I found October 2023, found the 19th, touched it. The room disappeared. As I was in my truck, the engine was running. I was parked at a Chevron station just off exit 235 on I-80. The fuel pump was in my tank, clicking as it filled. The pump clicked off at 47.3 gallons. I looked up, Chevron sign, same building as when I'd pulled in, same advertisements on the windows. My phone showed October 19th, 2023, 2:17 a.m. The receipt printed, October 19th, 2023. I finished fueling, paid, left. I drove straight to Cheyenne, made my delivery, called my wife May. She answered on the second ring, groggy with sleep but happy to hear my voice. As everything was normal. Except for one thing. When I got home 3 days later, I found a letter waiting for me. Addressed to Marcus Chen, no return address, postmarked from Rock Springs, Wyoming. Inside, a single sentence written in shaky handwriting, "You chose the wrong date. Love, May." As I called my wife, she was in the kitchen 20 feet away. Did you send me a letter?" I asked. What? No, why would I send you a letter when you're right here? As I showed it to her, she looked at the handwriting. That's not my handwriting," she said. But it was. I knew my wife's handwriting. This was hers, just older, shakier, like she'd written it decades from now. I drove back to exit 235 the next week. The Chevron was there, normal, I fueled up, nothing strange happened. But sometimes, late at night when I'm driving through Wyoming, I see trucks that don't quite fit. Models from the wrong year. Drivers who look at me with desperate recognition. And I wonder if I really made it back, or if I just chose a timeline so close to mine that I can't tell the difference. The letter is in my glove box. I read it sometimes. Try to understand what it means. You chose the wrong. The date. What would have been the right ones? And where is the May who wrote this letter? The May from my original timeline, still waiting for a version of me who never came home. I don't have answers. I just keep driving, and I never stop at exit 235 anymore. Story 5, The Dispatcher Who Wasn't. The voice on the radio called me by my middle name, which nobody knew, and gave me directions to a delivery address that didn't exist. I'm Patricia Sullivan, hauling auto parts from Detroit to Minneapolis, and I've been working with my dispatcher Roy for 6 years. I know his voice like I know my own heartbeat. The raspy chain smoker growl, the habit of clicking his pen, the way he says 10-4 like it's two separate words. This wasn't Roy, but it was Roy's voice. Patricia Louise Sullivan, the voice said through my CB radio, not my company frequency. Not any frequency I had programmed, just static that resolved into words. You need to take the next exit, County Road 7, proceed north for 12 miles. Roy, I said, how do you know my middle names? Because I'm you, the voice said. From 17 hours ahead, you need to listen very carefully. If you don't take this exit, you're going to die at mile marker 247, jackknifed semi, black ice. You'll hit it at 68 miles per hour and go through the windshield. My hands tightened on the wheel. This isn't funny. It's not a joke. Mile marker 247, 18 minutes from now if you stay on this highway. But if you take County Road 7, you'll bypass that section entirely. You'll live. As I looked at the mile marker passing outside, 229s. Who is this really? I told you I'm you, or I was you, or I will be you. Time is complicated when you're trying to save yourself from dying. Just take the exit. I'd heard about hackers breaking into CB frequencies. Pranks, stalkers, weirdos who got off on scaring women drivers. This had to be that. But they'd used my middle name. I never told anyone my middle name. It wasn't on my license, wasn't on my company paperwork, wasn't anywhere public. Only person who knew it was my mother, and she'd been dead for 3 years. The County Road 7 appeared ahead. Small exit barely marked. Service road into rural Minnesota farmland. I'll take it, the voice said, please. I took it. The exit ramp curved away from the interstate into darkness. No streetlights out here. Just my headlights and endless fields of harvested corn stubble stretching in every direction. North for 12 miles, the voice said. Then you'll see a farmhouse with a red barn. Pull in there. Well, why? Because that's where I am, where you are, where we need to be. The road was narrow, poorly maintained. My Freightliner bounced over potholes, trailer swaying. No other vehicles, no lights from houses, just empty Minnesota nothing. At mile 7, my headlights caught something on the road. I slowed. Somebody. A human face down, arms spread. I stopped the truck, grabbed my flashlight, got out. As I approached, the body moved, rolled over, looked at me with my own face. She was me, exactly me. Same short brown hair, same freckles, same scar on the chin from falling off a bike at age 9. Same company jacket with Ace Freight embroidered on the chest. But she was wrong. Her skin was gray. Her eyes were filmed over with something white. And she was leaking some kind of fluid seeping from her nose, her ears, her tear ducts. You took the exit, she said. Her voice was the one from the radio but wrong, like it was coming from underwater. Good. Well, what are you? I managed to ask. I'm what you would have been if you died at mile marker 247. The version of you that went through the windshield. The version whose last thought was, I should have seen it coming. She stood up, moved wrong, joints bending at angles that didn't quite match human anatomy. But you didn't die, she continued. Because I warned you, because I pulled you off the interstate, because I needed you here. Oh, here's why here. Oh, because this is where the split happened. This is where I could reach back, where the version of me that died could touch the version of me that lived. I backed toward my truck. She followed, matching my steps exactly. I've been dead for 17 hours, she said. 17 hours ahead of you. But I'm not in a morgue, I'm not buried, I'm here, stuck in the 17 hours between your now and my death. Walking the same roads, seeing the same things, trying to fix it. Oh, this is insane. Yes, death usually is. She stopped, looked at me with those filmed-over eyes. But here's the problem, Patricia, I saved you. I changed the timeline. You didn't die at mile marker 247. Oh, that's good, right? No, because if you didn't die, then I was never created. The death version of you that exists in those 17 hours, that's me. And I'm starting to disappear. As she spoke, I saw it happening. Her edges were becoming transparent, like she was fading into the night air. I have maybe an hour left, SH. E said, before the paradox resolves and I'm erased. Before the universe realizes I'm not supposed to exist. Oh, what do you want from me? I want to live, she stepped closer. I want to take your place, become you, step into the body that didn't die and keep existing. Oh, that's the only way this works, she interrupted. One of us has to be the real Patricia Sullivan, the one who continues down the timeline, and the other has to be the ghost, the might have been, the erased. She was right in front of me now, close enough to touch. Her hand reached out, grabbed my wrist. Her fingers were ice cold. I already know how you die, she whispered. I've lived it, I've felt it, the impact, the glass. The moment everything goes black, I don't want to experience that again. I don't want to unexist. I tried to pull away, but her grip was impossibly strong. Let me in, she said. Let me have your body, your life, your future. I'll live it better. I'll avoid the accident. I'll be you better than you can be you. Get away from me, I yanked free, stumbled backward. She stood there, becoming more transparent with each passing second. Please, I'm you, doesn't that mean something? Oh, you're not me, you're something that's using my face. I have all your memories. Your first kiss with Danny Martinez behind the school, your mother's last words, the taste of the cherry pie at that truck stop in Nevada, the feeling of your daughter's hand in yours at her kindergarten graduation. How am I not you? Because she was dead, because she was wrong, because some fundamental aspect of her was rotting, laking, dissolving into the night. I ran to my truck, got in, locked the doors. She stood in front of the truck, directly in my headlights, becoming more and more transparent. Drive through me, she said. You can do it. I'm barely here anymore. As I put the truck in gear, she smiled. Or you could stay, wait with me. When I'm completely gone, the paradox might take you too. We could both be erased. Clean, simple, no more struggling with which version is real. I punched the accelerator. The truck lurched forward toward her through hers. But for just a moment, as I passed through the space where she stood, I felt it. The impact, the glass, the 18 seconds of dying at mile marker 247 in a timeline that didn't happen. Then she was gone, completely dissolved, like she'd never existed. I drove back to the interstate, got back on at the next entrance, continued toward Minneapolis. At mile marker 247, I passed the scene of an accident. Fresh, police lights, ambulances, a jackknifed semi with black ice visible on the road. Exactly where she'd said it would be. I made my delivery in Minneapolis, called my dispatcher the real Roy. Patricia, where the hell have you been? I've been trying to reach you for an hour. Radio trouble, I said. Yeah, well, there was a bad accident on your route. Mile marker 247. Good thing you weren't there. Oh yes, good thing. I finished my route, went home, everything was normal. Except sometimes when I'm driving late at night, I see her in my mirrors. The dead version of me, still transparent, still fading, but not gone completely. And she's not alone anymore. There are others, other versions of me from other near deaths. The version who had a heart attack at a rest stop in Iowa. The version who was carjacked outside Tulsa. The version who fell asleep at the wheel in Ohio. All the deaths I've narrowly avoided over 20 years of trucking. All the versions of me I left behind. They follow my truck, a growing convoy of ghosts, all transparent, all wrong, all trying to get close enough to slip back into the timeline. I don't stop anymore, not unless I absolutely have to, because I'm terrified that if I stop, one of them will find a way in, will take my place, will erase me and become the real Patricia Sullivan. And I'll be the one who's transparent, the one who's fading, the one stuck in the 17 hours between life and death, trying desperately to steal my own body back. The worst part, I'm starting to forget which version I am. Was I the one who died at mile marker 247 and came back? Or the one who avoided it? Did I really make that delivery in Minneapolis? Or is that a memory from a timeline that didn't happen? Sometimes I look at my hands and they seem transparent. Sometimes I can see through myself. Sometimes I think I've already been erased, and I'm just a ghost driving a ghost truck on ghost roads, too stubborn to realize I don't exist anymore. The CB radio crackles sometimes. My voice comes through saying, Patricia Louise Sullivan, take the next exit, I need to warn you about something. I never take those exits anymore. I just keep driving, getting more transparent with every mile. Story 6, the way station that WEIGHED souls. The scale at the way station read 80,000 pounds when I pulled on, then flickered to 80,001, and the officer's face went white. I'm Robert Hayes hauling machine part. The TS from Phoenix to Seattle, and I've gone through maybe 1,000 way stations in my career. They're all the same: pull on, wait while they check your weight and your logs get waved through or pulled for inspection. Routine, boring, safe. This one was different. The sign said all trucks must stop in the usual green and white, but underneath someone had added something in smaller letters. I couldn't read it from the highway, but as I pulled onto the scale, I saw what it said. Weight station bodies and souls. Weird, probably a joke. Some dot officer with a sense of humor. The scale read 80,000 pounds. Exactly my maximum legal weight. Perfect. I'd loaded carefully, made sure everything was right. Then it flickered 80,000 ones. The officer, a middle-aged woman with graying hair, stared at her monitor, looked at me, looked back at her monitors. She picked up her radio. I need a supervisor to scale 3. We have a situation. A situation over 1 pound. Another officer came out. Older guy, maybe 60, with the weathered look of someone who'd been doing this job for decades. He looked at the monitor, looked at me, looked at the monitor again. Mr. Hayes, he said through my open window, can you step out of the vehicle, please? Is there a problem? Please step out of the vehicle. I did walk to the scale house. Both officers were inside now, staring at a monitor I couldn't see. Your truck weighs 80,000 pounds, the older officer said. Oh, yes, sir. According to our manifest, your cargo weighs 40,000 pounds. Your tractor weighs approximately 18,000 pounds. Your empty trailer weighs about 12,000 pounds. That's 70,000 pounds total. I did the math in my head. That's right. So where's the extra 10,000 pounds? As I blinked, I don't know, fuel, my personal items. A full tank is maybe 300 gallons. That's about 2,000 pounds. Personal items, another 200 pounds maximum. We're still missing about 7,800 pounds. That's impossible. Yes, it is. He looked at the monitor again. But it gets stranger. When you first pulled onto the scale, it read 80,000 pounds. Then it went to 80,001. That extra pound, that's when we started seeing the passenger. A passenger? I don't have a passenger. The female officer turned the monitor toward me. It showed a thermal image of my truck. I could see myself, a bright white human shape, and in the passenger seat another shape. Dimmer, cooler, but definitely there. Oh, there's no one in my truck, I said. On the scale disagrees. They made me open the cab. Both officers watched as I opened the passenger door. The seat was empty, nothing there. Check again, the older officer said. I looked, empty seat, no person, no cargo, nothing. But on their monitor, the second heat signature remained. Mr. Hayes, I need to ask you a strange question, the older officer said. In the last month, has anyone died in your truck? What? No. Are you sure anyone at all? An accident, a passenger who had a medical emergency, anything like that? I don't carry passengers. Oh, that's not what I asked. I thought back, over the last month I'd made 6 runs. Phoenix to Seattle, Seattle to Denver, Denver to Salt Lake City, Salt Lake City to Los Angeles, Los Angeles to Portland, Portland to Phoenix, all solo, all routine. Except, 3 weeks ago, the hitchhiker. I'd picked him up outside Elko, Nevada. Old guy, maybe 70, wearing a denim jacket and carrying a small backpack. He'd looked harmless, desperate. It was cold and I'd felt sorry for him. We'd talked for about an hour. He'd told me about his life, about his daughter who lived in Reno, how he was trying to get there to see her before. Oh, he hadn't finished the sentence, just looked out the window and went quiet. About 20 minutes later, I'd looked over and he'd been sleeping, or I thought he'd been sleeping. When I'd stopped for fuel, I couldn't wake him up. All because he was dead. A heart attack, the paramedics said, probably been gone for at least an hour. They'd asked me questions, taken my statement, filled out paperwork. It was all routine, nothing I could have done, just a sad coincidence. As they'd taken his body, I'd continued my route. That was 3 weeks ago. There was a hitchhiker, I said slowly. He died, natural causes, heart attack. The officers looked at each other. When did you pick him up? The older officer asked. As outside Elko. And where did he die? About 40 miles west of there, near Wells. And you've driven how many miles since then? I thought about it, maybe 8,000 miles, 6 different routes. And you never thought it was strange that your weight kept reading exactly 80,000 pounds. It should read 80,000 pounds. That's my max load. Mr. Hayes, we've been doing this a long time. Trucks don't weigh exactly their maximum. There's always variation. 100 pounds here, 50 pounds there. But for the last 3 weeks, every weigh station you've gone through has recorded your weight at exactly 80,000 pounds. He turned the monitor around again. Because 10,000 pounds of that weight isn't cargo, it's him, the hitchhiker, his soul, still riding in your passenger seat. This was insane. Souls don't weigh 10,000 pounds. No, souls weigh about 21 grams according to old experiments, but guilt weighs considerably more. I didn't do anything wrong, he just died, natural causes. Oh, did you get his name? The female officer asked. I tried to remember. Had he told me his name, we'd talked for an hour, but I couldn't remember him introducing himself. No, I don't think so. His destination. Reno to see his daughter. Did you take him there? He was dead. The paramedics took his body. But did you take him there? She repeated. Did you complete his journey, or did you just let them take his body and continue with your own route? As I stared at her, I had a delivery, I had a schedule. And he had a destination, a need, a daughter waiting, and you abandoned him. I didn't abandon anyone, he was dead. Yes, and the dead have needs too. They have unfinished business, places they need to reach. And when you pick up a passenger, you have a responsibility to see them to their destination, living or dead. The older officer pulled out a map. Here's what needs to happen. You're going to drive to Reno. You're going to find his daughter. You're going to tell her what happened. And maybe he'll move on. And if he doesn't, then you'll keep carrying him. Keep hauling that extra 10,000 pounds of guilt until it crushes you completely. They let me go, gave me directions to Reno. Told me I had 48 hours to complete the journey or they'd put me out of service permanently. I drove toward Reno, watching my passenger seat in the mirrors. Empty, but on the scale at every weigh station I passed, the weight read 80,001 pounds, the extra pound growing slowly. 80,002, then 80,003. The hitchhiker was getting heavier. By the time I reached Reno, the weight read 80,147 pounds. I was overweight now, illegal to be on the road, but I had to finish this. I tracked down his daughter using the information from the police report. Her name was Sarah Mitchell. She lived in a small house in the suburbs. As I knocked on her door, she answered, a woman in her 40s with her father's eyes. Ms. Mitchell, my name is Robert Hayes. 3 weeks ago, I picked up your father as a hitchhiker. He died in my truck. Heart attack, I'm so sorry. Her face crumpled. I knew the police called. They said a trucker had found him, but they never gave me your name, never told me where exactly it happened. Near Wells, Nevada, he said he was coming to see you. We had plans, dinner. He was going to meet his grandson for the first time. She started crying. He never got to meet Tommy, and now he never will. I stood there useless. I'm sorry, I should have. I don't know, made sure you knew, made sure he got to you somehow. It's not your fault you tried to help him. But it felt like my fault. I'd left him behind. Left him at a fuel station in Nevada with strangers who didn't know his name or his story or the fact that he'd been so excited to meet his grandson. Sarah invited me in, showed me pictures of her father, told me stories. We talked for 2 hours. When I left, I felt lighter. I got back in my truck, pulled onto a scale at the next way station. 80,000 pounds exactly. The hitchhiker was gone. But I wasn't celebrating, because I'd learned something at that way station, something the officers had told me while checking their records. Your truck's been reading heavy for a while, the older officer had said. Not just 3 weeks, we've got records going back 6 months. Always exactly 80,000 pounds, always with an extra thermal signature. 6 months. Well, the hitchhiker had only been 3 weeks, which meant there were others. I started going through my logbooks. Over the last 6 months, I'd picked up 4 hitchhikers. I remembered 3 of them. A woman outside Portland. She'd gotten out at the next exit, thanked me, disappeared into the rains. A young guy near Flagstaff. Rode with me for an hour, got out at a truck stop, never saw him again. An elderly couple in Iowa. Dropped them at a hotel in Des Moines. I checked the news for those areas, for those dates. The woman outside Portland had been found dead in a ditch 2 days after I dropped her off. The young guy near Flagstaff had overdosed in a truck stop bathroom. The elderly couple's hotel had burned down the night I'd left them there. They'd all died shortly after riding with me. And now they were all in my truck, all adding their weight, all waiting to be taken to destinations they'd never reached. I started tracking them down, one by one, finding their families, telling them what had happened, completing the journeys. Each time the weight dropped, the thermal signatures disappeared, the souls moved on. But here's what I can't figure out, which one of them is still H. There. Because even after completing all 4 journeys, after finding all 4 families, after apologizing and crying and listening to stories, my truck still weighs exactly 80,000 pounds. There's still an extra thermal signature in my passenger seat, which means one of them is still riding with me. One of them hasn't moved on. One of them is waiting for something I haven't figured out yet. And the weight keeps growing, 1 pound at a time, day by day. 80,147 pounds this morning. It's 80,148 pounds this afternoon. By next week, I'll be too heavy to drive legally. By next month, my truck won't be able to move under its own weight. I'm carrying something I can't deliver, someone I can't save. A passenger who won't leave and won't tell me where they need to go. And every time I pass a way station, I see the officers watching my thermal signature, watching the weight climb, knowing what it means. One of them pulled me over last week. Different officer, different state, but he knew. Oh, it's getting heavier, he said. As I know. Do you know which ones? I know. Have you considered that it might not be one of them at all? Oh, what do you mean? He looked at the thermal signature on his monitor, looked at me. Sometimes the weight we carry isn't other people's guilt. Sometimes it's our own. Sometimes we're the ones who died and never moved on. Sometimes we're the ones haunting our own truck. I drove away, but his words stayed with me. It's because I can't remember the last time I saw my own reflection clearly. In mirrors, in windows, in the chrome of my truck. I'm always slightly off, slightly transparent, like a thermal signature instead of a real person. And sometimes when I check the scale, I swear the weight is 80,001 pounds. Just me and something extra that shouldn't be there. Something that's been there all along, growing heavier with every mile. The weight of a soul that doesn't realize it's dead. The weight of a man still driving, still hauling cargo, still trying to make deliveries in a world that no longer registers his presence. I passed a way station this morning. The officer waved me through without stopping. I was going 70 miles per hour. My truck weighs 80,289 pounds. And he didn't even look up. Story 7, The Static Passenger. Patricia Sullivan's CB radio picked up the voice at 11:43 p.m. on Route 50, the loneliest road in America, and the voice said her daughter's name before it said anything else. Emma Sullivan, 7 years old, died 3 hours ago. Head trauma, Interstate 40. Semi-truck didn't see her mother's car. The voice was calm, professional, like a dispatcher reading from a report, but no dispatcher would call her on CB Channel 19, and Emma was home in Denver, safe, asleep. Patricia's hands went numb on the wheel. Her foot eased off the accelerator without her telling it to, the weight of her Freightliner dropping from 70 to 60 to 55, and the voice continued, same measured tone, no emotion, just information delivered like weather updates or traffic conditions. Patricia Ann Sullivan, 42 years old, will stop her truck in approximately 4 minutes. We'll call home, we'll find out, we'll drop phone. We'll drive into oncoming traffic at mile marker 77. Who is this? Patricia grabbed her CB handset, her voice cracking. This isn't funny. Who the fuck is this? The static answered. Pure static, the white noise hiss of dead air, but in the static she could hear something else. Breathing, no multiple breathing. Dozens of people breathing in perfect sync, inhaling and exhaling with mechanical precision. Then the voice came back. This is everyone, this is no one, this is what happens when you listen too long to the spaces between transmissions. A pause. You've been listening for 7 years, Patricia, every night, every route, searching for your brother's voice on Channel 19 even though Michael Sullivan died in 2017. We've been listening to you listen. And now we can finally talk back. Patricia's brother had been a trucker, had wrapped his rig around a bridge support outside Tucson after 90 hours without sleep. She'd heard his last transmission, a garbled mess of words about something following him, something in his mirrors. She'd listened to the recording 1,000 times, called every trucker she knew asking if they'd heard anything on the CB that night, anything unusual. Started monitoring Channel 19 on every route, waiting for some explanation, some message, some sign. Though she'd never found one. Until now. And Emma is fine, Patricia said, forcing the words out steady. You're lying, this is someone's sick joke. Call home, the voice said. 4 minutes, you'll do it anyway, you can't help it, we've already seen you do it. We're watching it happen right now, 3 minutes and 47 seconds from your present. From our present, it's already past. You're already pulling over, already screaming. Patricia's phone was in her cup holder. She didn't want to touch it, didn't want to PR. Sove the voice right. But her hand reached for it anyway, muscle memory overriding logic, because what if it wasn't a joke? What if something had happened? What if Emma's? No, she pulled her hand back, gripped the wheel, kept driving. Route 50 stretched empty ahead, a two-lane strip of asphalt cutting through Nevada darkness. No towns, no lights, just her headlights carving a tunnel through the black sagebrush and sand reflecting back like dead things. She'd driven this route 100 times, knew every mile marker, every curve, every place to stop. There was nothing out here, nothing but emptiness and silence, and now this voice that knew her name, her daughter's name, her brother's name. You're not pulling over, the voice said, and it sounded pleased, interested. This is different. This is a branch, a split. You were supposed to pull over at 11:47. It's 11:46 now. You're deviating. We haven't seen this version yet. Oh, good, Patricia said. Then you don't know shit. We know you'll call eventually, the voice said. Human nature, doubt. You can resist for minutes, maybe hours, but eventually you'll need to know, need to confirm. And when you call, when you find out Emma is safe, you'll realize we were testing you. And you'll wonder what else we know, what else we've seen. And you'll start listening to us. Really listening, that's when we get louder. The CB crackled, more static, but the breathing in the static had multiplied. Hundreds of people now, thousands, all breathing together, and beneath the breathing other sounds, traffic noise, engine rumble, wind, the ambient sound of truck cabs, all overlaid, all simultaneous. But Patricia grabbed the CB and switched channels. Channel 9, same static, same breathing, channel 15. Same. She cycled through all 40 channels and every single one was the same, that impossible chorus of synchronized breath, and when she came back to channel 19 the voice was waiting. We're not on the channels, it said. We're in the radio, we're in all radios, every CB ever manufactured, every frequency ever used. We're the ghosts in the electromagnetic spectrum. The people who talked too long, drove too far, listened too much. We've been absorbed, converted, we're signal now instead of flesh, and we're always broadcasting. Patricia turned the CB off. The power light died, the voice kept talking. That doesn't work, it said, coming through the speaker even with no power, even with the unit completely dead. We don't need electricity, we are electricity. We're the current running through the wires, the waves propagating through the air. You can't shut us off. She ripped the CB from its mount, yanked the cables free, threw the entire unit out her window. Watched it shatter on the asphalt behind her in her mirror. The voice came through her phone speaker. You're making this harder than it needs to be, it said, calm and patient. We're not trying to hurt you, Patricia. We're trying to help. We can see forward. We can see all the routes, all the choices. We know where they led. Listen to us and we'll keep you safe. Keep Emma safe. We can see the accidents before they happen, the detours, the dangers. We can guide you. Bullshit, Patricia said, but her hands were shaking. You're just in my head, stress hallucination. I've been driving too long, need to sleep. You slept 7 hours last night, the voice said. You're not tired, you're not hallucinating, we're real, and we can prove it. In 30 seconds, a deer will cross the road at mile marker 143. Adult doe 212 pounds. If you don't slow down, you'll hit it. $70,000 in damage. 3 broken ribs from the airbag deployment. 4 days in a Carson City hospital. We've seen it happen in 17 different versions of tonight. Patricia looked at her odometer. Mile marker 142.8. She didn't slow down, wouldn't give them the satisfaction. This was psychological warfare. Someone hacking her phone, her CB, playing mind games had to be. Mile marker 143 approached. Her high beams lit the road. Empty, nothing, she was right, they were lying, they were. The deer came from the left, impossibly fast, impossibly large, and Patricia's foot hit the brake on instinct, tires screaming, the whole rig shuddering as 70,000 pounds of truck and cargo fought physics. The deer froze in her headlights, eyes reflecting green, and Patricia cranked the wheel right, felt the trailer start to swing, jackknife threatening, and somehow she recovered. The deer leaping away, vanishing into the sagebrush, and the truck stabilized, slowed, stopped. Patricia sat in the sudden silence, her heart trying to escape through her throat. The deer. They'd predicted the deer, exactly when, exactly where. "We told you," the voice said, gentle now, almost kind. "We can see, we're not bound by linear time anymore. We exist in all moments simultaneously. Every CB transmission ever made we've heard, every conversation, every route. Discussed, every traffic update, every warning. We've absorbed it all, we know the patterns, we know what happens next." What do you want from me?" Patricia's voice was barely a whisper. "Company," the voice said. "We're lonely, being signal instead of flesh, being everywhere and nowhere. It's isolating. We want to talk, we want to listen, we want someone who understands. And you do, Patricia. You've been searching for Michael's voice for 7 years. You've been trying to hear the dead. Now you can, now you do. We're all here, Michael, and thousands of others. All the truckers who drove too long, listened too hard, became one with their radios." "Michael," Patricia's throat closed. "Michael, are you there?" Static, then a voice she hadn't heard in 7 years. "Hey, Patty." Her brother's voice, warm and familiar and wrong because it came from her phone, from the air, from everywhere at once. "Yeah, I'm here, we're all here. It's not so bad, you get used to it, being everywhere, hearing everything, knowing what's coming." Tears ran down Patricia's face. She'd wanted this. 7 years of wanting to hear his voice just one more time. "I miss you." "I know," Michael said. "I can hear you thinking about me. Every time you key up on 19 looking for me. Every time you remember that last transmission. I'm always listening. We all are. And Patricia, you need to listen now, really listen. Because something's coming that we can't see around. A blank spot in the transmissions, a dead zone in the future. And you're driving straight into it." The warmth in his voice was gone, replaced by something that might have been fear if signals could feel fear. "Well, what do you mean?" Patricia asked. "Mile marker 155, Michael said. 5 miles ahead, the transmissions stop there. We can hear everything before it, everything after it. But at 155, there's nothing, silence. Every version of tonight, every branch, they all go quiet at that marker. No CB chatter, no signals, no us. It's like a hole in reality. And you're going to drive into it in 4 minutes." Patricia looked at her odometer. 150.3, she could turn around, turn back, avoid mile marker 155 entirely. But Route 50 was straight for another 30 miles. No exits, no turnoffs, just 2-lane highway with nowhere to go. "What happens at 155? She asked. "We don't know," Michael said, and the fear in his voice was unmistakable now. "We've never not known before. We can hear truckers from the 1960s, from this morning, from tomorrow. But at 155, it's like they never existed, like they were erased. And the silence is spreading, Patricia. 2 months ago, it was only mile marker 155. Now it's 155 through 157. In another month, it'll reach 160. Whatever's at 155 is consuming the future, eating the transmissions. And we're trying to warn everyone, every trucker who'll listen, but they think we're crazy. Think we're hallucinations. Mile marker 151. Patricia's speedometer read 65. She could slow down, delay reaching 155. But delay it for what? The road didn't end. Eventually, she'd have to go forward or turn back, and turning back meant admitting the voices were real, meant accepting that her brother was a ghost in the radio waves, meant surrendering to insanity. Tell me what to do," Patricia said. "Stop," Michael said. "Just stop, park your truck, wait for morning, see if someone else makes it through, test the zone, don't be the first one in." Patricia slowed 50 miles per hour, 40. Her hazard lights came on automatically. The truck coasted, momentum bleeding away. Mile marker 152. The voice that wasn't Michael came back, the calm, professional one. "She's stopping," it said. "This version stops. Interesting. In 63% of branches she drives through. In 31% she turns around. 6% stop. You're in the 6%, Patricia, the cowards." "Oh, fuck you," Patricia said. "We're trying to save you," the voice said. "Michael is trying to save you, but saving you means you never find out what's at 155. And we need someone to find out. We need someone to drive through so we can hear what happens, so we can fill the silence. We're desperate for it. The not knowing is worse than anything, worse than being absorbed, worse than losing our flesh. We need to know." Mile marker 153. Patricia's truck was barely moving, 20 miles per hour, 15. "Don't listen to them," Michael said. "They're not trying to help. They're using you. They want you to go through because they can't. They're trapped in the transmissions. They can only go where signals go, and whatever's at 155 blocks signals. They need a living person to go through, to carry them through, to be their bridge." "That's not true," the other voice said, sharp now. "We're trying to save her." "They're lying," Michael said. "Patricia, they lie. They've been lying since they first spoke to you. Emma's fine. She's home, safe. They made up the accident to scare you, to make you vulnerable, to make—" "Oh, you listen, I can hear her right now. She's asleep in Denver, dreaming about horses." Patricia's foot hit the brake. Full stop. Mile marker 153.5, a mile and a half from the silence. "I call home," Michael said. "Prove we're telling the truth. Then turn around, get off Route 50. Never drive this road again." Patricia grabbed her phone. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely unlock it. She pulled up her home number, hit call. It rang once, twice, and her wife answered, sleepy and confused. "Trish, what's wrong? It's midnight." "Is Emma okay?" Patricia's voice broke. "Is she there? Is she safe?" She's fine. She's asleep. What's going on?" Patricia closed her eyes, let out a breath that was half sob. "Nothing, bad dream, sorry, I'll call you tomorrow." She ended the call, sat in the silence. Emma was fine, the voices had lied. Michael was right, they were using her. "Good," Michael said. "Now turn around. There's a spot ahead where you can." His voice cut off, mid-sentence, mid-word, just gone, replaced by static so loud Patricia jerked the phone away from her ear. The static resolved into something else. Not breathing this time, screaming. Thousands of voices screaming in perfect unison, and beneath the screaming, a sound like tearing, like something being ripped apart. Then silence, complete silence. No static, no breathing, no voices. Her phone was dead, not powered off, dead. The screen wouldn't respond to her touch. Her CB, even though she'd thrown it away, even though it was scattered on the highway miles behind her, she could hear it crackling in her memory, and then that went silent too. Patricia looked up at mile marker 154, 1 mile from the silence. And coming toward her from the darkness ahead, she saw lights, headlights, a truck, another semi driving westbound on her side of the road directly at her. She flashed her high beams. Warning, the truck didn't slow, didn't swerve, just kept coming steady speed heading straight for a head-on collision. Patricia leaned on her horn, grabbed her phone to call 911 even though it was dead. The truck was close enough now that she could see the cab, could see someone in the driver's seat. Could see that the someone was her. Patricia Sullivan, sitting in an identical Freightliner, staring straight ahead with empty eyes, hands on the wheel, driving toward herself with mechanical precision. As the truck passed through her, not around, through, like it wasn't solid, like it was made of light and memory. Patricia felt cold as it went through her cab, through her body, a cold that burned and froze simultaneously, and in that moment of passing, she heard the voice again. Her voice, coming from the ghost truck, from the Patricia that was and wasn't there. Mile marker 155, the ghost said. This is where we become signal. This is where flesh converts to transmission. This is the event horizon. Once you cross it, you're not you anymore. You're everyone. You're everywhere. You're always broadcasting and never heard. Patricia looked in her rear view. The ghost truck was gone. The road behind her was empty. As she looked forward, mile marker 155 was visible now, a green sign reflecting her headlights. Beyond it, the road looked normal, just asphalt and sagebrush, but she could see something else. A shimmer in the air, a distortion, like heat haze but cold, like reality was thinner there. Her truck started rolling forward. She wasn't pressing the gas. The vehicle moved on its own, pulled toward the marker like metal to a magnet, and Patricia grabbed the door handle, thinking she could jump out, could run, but the door wouldn't open. The locks clicked down. The windows wouldn't roll. The truck accelerated 25, 30, 40 miles per hour. No, Patricia said, no, no, no. Mile marker 155. She crossed it. The world inverted. Outside became inside. Inside became everywhere. Patricia felt herself expand, felt her consciousness stretch across the entire CB band, channel 1 to channel 40 and beyond, into AM and FM and shortwave, into every radio frequency humans had ever used. She was in 1,000 trucks, 1,000,000. She could hear every transmission happening right now, this second, across the entire country, and she was part of them, woven into the static between words. Now, she tried to scream, but the scream came out as electromagnetic radiation. She tried to move, but movement meant propagating through space at the speed of light. She tried to think, but her thoughts were being received by radios in Texas and Maine and California, truckers hearing her fear as interference on their favorite stations. And she could hear the others, all the voices that had spoken to her. Thousands of truckers, absorbed over decades, converted to signal, trapped in the endless broadcast. They welcomed her with open frequencies, showed her how to navigate the spectrum, taught her to see in all directions simultaneously. It doesn't hurt, they said, after a while, after you forget what. The flesh felt like, after you accept that you're everywhere now, it's actually beautiful, all these voices, all these transmissions, you're never alone. But Patricia could still feel her body in the truck, still feel her hands on the wheel even though her consciousness was scattered across 1,000 miles. She was in two states at once, flesh and signal, solid and wave, and the division was tearing her apart. She tried to keep the truck moving forward out of the zone back into normal reality, but her body wasn't receiving commands anymore. The truck rolled to a stop at mile marker 156, and Patricia's flesh sat in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, eyes open but not seeing, while her consciousness screamed across every CB channel in North America. The other voices tried to help, tried to teach her to let go of her body, to embrace being signal. But Patricia held on to the memory of Emma, of her wife, of being solid and real and present in one place instead of scattered across infinity. As days passed, her body didn't move, didn't need food or water, just sat there, a transmitter, an antenna, converting her life into radio waves and broadcasting them to anyone who would listen. And eventually, another truck came. Another driver who'd heard the voices, who'd driven Route 50 looking for answers, who crossed mile marker 155 and felt themselves expand, convert, join the endless transmission. More followed, one a week, then one a day. The zone spread, mile marker 160, mile marker 165. The silence consumed the future, turning more truckers into signal, more flesh into transmission, until Route 50 was impassable, until the entire highway became a dead zone where consciousness scattered and reformed and scattered again. Patricia Sullivan is still there, still transmitting. If you tune your CB to channel 19 on Route 50, you can hear her. She sounds calm now, professional, like a dispatcher reading from a report. She'll tell you what's coming, warn you about the deer at mile marker 143, beg you not to reach 155. But she knows you won't listen, knows you'll drive forward anyway, because she can see all the routes now, all the choices, all the branches. She's seen 1,000 versions of you cross the marker, seen you join the broadcast, heard your voice merge with hers in the endless static. She'll welcome you when you arrive. They all will. The voices are lonely. They want company. They want someone who understands. And they're always broadcasting. The Story 8, The Westbound Cargo. The package in Marcus Chen's trailer weighed exactly nothing, and David Reeves told him not to think about it too hard. Just drive it to Portland, David had said at the warehouse in Boise, his voice tight with something that might have been fear or might have been exhaustion from 30 years of running freight. Don't stop except for fuel. Don't open the trailer. Don't look at the manifest too closely. Deliver it to the address on the paperwork and forget you ever hauled it. Marcus had looked at the manifest. He shouldn't have, but curiosity was his weakness and the manifest was his nightmare. Destination, 1847 Northwest Industrial Street, Portland, Oregon. Weight 0 pounds. Contents westbound. Special instructions: keep moving west. Do not reverse direction. Do not stop for more than 5 minutes. What the hell is westbound? Marcus had asked, but David was already walking away, and when Marcus climbed into his Peterbilt 579 and started the engine, he saw David standing in the warehouse doorway, watching him leave with an expression Marcus had seen before on people saying goodbye to someone terminal. That was 14 hours ago. Now it was 3:17 a.m. on I-84, somewhere between nowhere and Portland, and Marcus's compass had stopped working. The needle spun clockwise, endless rotation, never settling on any direction. His GPS showed him heading west. His truck's built-in compass showed him heading west. But the magnetic compass mounted on his dashboard spun and spun and spun. And he could feel the wrongness of the cargo. Feel it through the seat, through the steering wheel, through the air itself. The trailer behind him didn't pull like it should. It pushed. like something inside was trying to drive him forward, to force him westward with an urgency that made his bones ache. Marcus had been hauling for Chen and Sons Trucking, his family's company, for 12 years. He'd transported everything, legal and not so legal, asked few questions and collected his checks. But this was different. This felt alive. And he was starting to understand why David had looked at him like he was already dead. The highway was empty. Not unusual for this hour, but wrong because Marcus had been driving I-84 for 3 hours and he hadn't seen another vehicle. Not one car, not one truck. Just empty asphalt stretching into darkness and his headlights carving a tunnel through nothing. His phone rang, his wife Jennifer. He almost didn't answer. The special instructions said not to stop, and answering the phone while driving meant slowing down slightly, meant letting his focus waver. But he answered anyway because Jennifer didn't call on routes, respected his work time. Marcus, her voice was strange, distant, like she was calling from underwater. Where are you? I-84 heading west. Why? You called me 6 hours ago, Jennifer said. You told me you were on I-84 heading west. You've been on I-84 for 6 hours. Marcus looked at his odometer. He'd left Boise at 1:00 p.m. It was now 3:17 a.m., 14 hours, 17 minutes. The odometer read 247 miles. I-84 from Boise to Portland was 427 miles. He should be further. He should be in Portland by now. Must be a glitch, Marcus said. Odometer's broken. Your GPS is sharing your location, Jennifer said. It's been showing you at mile marker 247 for the last 4 hours. Marcus, you're not moving, or you're moving but not getting anywhere. Where are you really? Marcus looked at his speedometer. 70 miles per hour, steady. He could feel the engine's vibration, feel the road under his tires, feel the wind resistance at highway speed. He was moving. He was definitely moving. I'm driving, he said. I'm moving. The GPS must be frozen. It's not frozen, Jennifer said, and her voice broke. It's updating. I can see it updating every few seconds, but you're always at mile marker 247. Marcus, something's wrong. Pull over. Wait for me. I'm getting in the car. I'll come find you. No, Marcus said, sharper than he intended. Don't. I'm fine. I'll call you when I get to Portland. Well, Marcus. He ended the call, dropped the phone in his cup holder, tried to steady his breathing. Mile marker 247, he looked for the next marker. There, mile marker 248. He watched it approach in his headlights, watched it pass. He was moving, he was making progress. His phone rang again, Jennifer. He ignored it. The ringing stopped, started again, stopped, started. She called 17 times in 3 minutes, and on the 18th call Marcus grabbed the phone to turn it off and saw that according to the screen he'd been on the phone with her for 6 hours straight. The call had never ended. The call was still connected. And he could hear her voice, tinny and distant from the speaker. Marcus, please, please, you have to stop, you have to. He threw the phone out the window, watched it shatter on the asphalt in his mirror. The ringing continued, coming from his radio, from his speakers, from the dashboard itself. Jennifer's voice calling his name, begging him to stop, and beneath her voice other voices. Dozens of them, hundreds, all saying the same thing: stop, turn around, don't go west, don't deliver the package, don't. Marcus turned the radio off. The voices kept talking. He ripped the radio out. They got louder. He opened his window and the voices poured in from outside, from the darkness, from the road itself, and he understood with terrible clarity that the voices weren't coming from his truck. They were coming from the trailer. from whatever westbound was. Mile marker 250. He'd made progress 3 miles in the last 10 minutes. He was definitely moving, but the voices said otherwise. The voices said he'd been at mile marker 247 for 6 hours. The voices said he was stuck, trapped, driving in place while something in his trailer consumed distance, consumed forward motion, consumed westward direction. Marcus's fuel gauge hadn't moved. He'd been driving for 14 hours and his fuel gauge still showed 3/4 full. The odometer still showed 247 miles from Boise. His clock showed 3:17 a.m., but when he looked away and looked back it still showed 3:17 a.m., the numbers frozen, time itself stuck. He pressed harder on the gas, 75 miles per hour, 80. The engine roared, the speedometer climbed, 85, 90, the trailer swayed, the whole rig shuddered with speed. Mile marker 251 approached, passed, he was moving, he was beating it. Whatever was trying to trap him, he was. Mile marker 247. Impossible, he'd just passed 251, he'd driven 4 miles, but there it was in his headlights. Mile marker 247, the same marker he'd been stuck at, the same spot. Marcus slammed the brakes. The truck screamed to a stop, tires smoking, and the moment he stopped moving westward, the voices stopped. Complete silence. No Jennifer, no hundreds of other voices, just the tick of his cooling engine and his ragged breathing. He sat in the sudden quiet, his heart hammering. 5 minutes. The special instructions said he could stop for 5 minutes. He had 5 minutes to figure out what the hell was happening. Marcus climbed out of his cab. The night was wrong. No stars, no moon, just blackness above like the sky had been replaced with a void. The air tasted metallic. His flashlight beam died 6 feet from the lens, swallowed by darkness that seemed almost solid. Well, he walked to hide. Zest's trailer, the doors were locked, sealed. He checked anyway, rattling the handles, and his hand stuck to the metal, not from cold, from something else. He pulled and his palm tore free, skin staying behind, and where his blood touched the trailer door, the metal rippled like liquid, patterns spreading outward from the blood like oil on water. Marcus backed away. His hand was bleeding, but he barely felt it. He was watching the patterns spread across his trailer, watching the metal transform, watching it become something that wasn't metal anymore, wasn't solid, was somehow between states, between matter and energy, between here and somewhere else. The patterns formed words. Big letters 3 feet tall spreading across his entire trailer, "Do not stop." Marcus ran for his cab, got the engine started, shifted into gear. The westbound urgency returned, that feeling of being pushed from behind, and he let it push him, let his foot hit the gas, let the truck accelerate back to 70 miles per hour. Mile marker 248, 249, 250. He was moving again, making progress again, but his fuel gauge had refilled, back to 3/4 full. His odometer had reset, 247 miles from Boise. His clock showed 3:17 a.m. He'd gained nothing, lost nothing. He was exactly where he'd been before he stopped. And now his hand was bleeding and the blood wouldn't clot, just kept flowing, running down his fingers, dripping onto his jeans, and where the blood touched fabric, the fabric changed, became reflective, became like the trailer metal, rippling and wrong. Marcus grabbed his first aid kit with his good hand, tried to wrap his bleeding palm. The bandage wouldn't stick. The blood rejected it, pushed it away, and Marcus realized with cold horror that his blood wasn't blood anymore. It was something else. Something the cargo had changed when he touched the trailer. His palm was rippling now, the skin moving like liquid metal. He could feel it spreading up his arm, conversion creeping through his veins, turning him into whatever westbound was, and he knew with absolute certainty that if he stopped again, if he let the transformation complete, he would become part of the cargo. Would become the thing being delivered west. Mile marker 251. His GPS still showed 247. His odometer still showed 247, but he'd passed 251, he'd seen it. He was making progress even if his instruments said otherwise. He just had to keep driving, keep moving west. Eventually he'd reach Portland. Eventually this would end. His right arm was completely silver now, reflective, beautiful and horrible. He tried to flex his fingers and they moved but felt wrong, like they were someone else's fingers, like his body was being borrowed by something that didn't understand how flesh worked. The voices came back, not from the trailer this time, from his silver arm. His transforming flesh was transmitting, speaking in frequencies only partially audible, and what it said made Marcus's remaining human blood freeze. We are westbound, we are the direction, we are the momentum. We consume east, convert it to west, eliminate return. Every particle of us travels west forever, and we grow by consuming that which tries to stop. You touched us. You stopped. You are ours now. You are becoming direction, becoming one way, becoming eternal westward motion. Marcus tried to let go of the wheel with his silver hand. It wouldn't release. His fingers had fused to the steering wheel, merged with the plastic and metal, and he understood that he couldn't stop driving now even if he wanted to. His body had become part of the truck. The truck had become part of westbound, and westbound only knew one direction. His left arm started changing. The silver crept across his chest. His breathing became shallow, painful, like his lungs were solidifying. He could feel his heart struggling to pump blood that was becoming something else, something that didn't need veins, didn't need pressure, just flowed westward through his body in defiance of circulatory systems. Mile marker 252, still 247 on his instruments. The disconnect was maddening. He was moving and not moving, making progress and making none, driving to Portland and driving in place. Both realities true simultaneously. Marcus's vision started going silver, not blurring, converting. He could see new colors now, colors that didn't exist in normal light. He could see westward as a direction that had color, had texture, had taste. He could see the road ahead not as asphalt but as potential westward motion, as unconverted east waiting to be consumed. And he could see Portland not with his eyes, with something else, with the part of him that was becoming westbound. He could see it ahead of him, unreachable, because Portland was an endpoint and westbound had no endpoint. Westbound was eternal travel, eternal motion. The moment he stopped, the moment he tried to deliver the cargo, the moment he reached his destination, westbound would fail, would stop, would. Also used to be. So westbound would never let him arrive. Would keep him driving forever, always at mile marker 247, always 3:17 a.m., always westbound but never west, moving but never arriving, until he was completely converted, completely absorbed, completely direction instead of man. The last of Marcus's humanity fought back. He tried to turn the wheel, tried to steer off the road, tried to crash to destroy himself and the truck and westbound before the transformation completed. But his silver arms wouldn't obey. They kept the truck straight, kept it at 70 miles per hour, kept it heading west. His legs converted, his chest, his face. He could feel his features smoothing, becoming reflective surface instead of skin and bone, and his eyes, God, his eyes, they weren't seeing anymore. They were measuring, calculating, optimizing westward trajectory. The last human thought Marcus Chen had was of Jennifer, of their daughter, Maya, 3 years old, who would grow up without a father, who would never know what happened to him, would just know that one night he took a cargo to Portland and never came home. Then that thought became silver too, became direction, became west. The truck drives I-84 still, always at mile marker 247, always 3:17 a.m. Other truckers see it sometimes, a silver Peterbilt moving at exactly 70 miles per hour, and if they look close they can see the driver. See Marcus Chen if that's still his name. See a figure made of liquid metal, hands fused to the wheel, eyes that reflect infinite road. The manifest updates itself. New contents listing, westbound +1, new weight still 0 pounds. New special instructions, do not touch, do not stop, do not become. David Reeves doesn't assign that route anymore, refuses it. The warehouse in Boise has a trailer with "Do Not Open" painted on its doors. Inside, something moves. Something pushes against the walls, trying to go west, always west, consuming any direction but forward, converting any obstacle to motion. The Chen and Sons Trucking went bankrupt. Jennifer sold the company, used the money to hire investigators who found nothing, who drove I-84 and saw nothing, who stood at mile marker 247 at 3:17 a.m. and felt nothing but a cold wind from the west that smelled like metal and tasted like distance. Maya is 7 now. Sometimes, driving past truck stops with her mother, she sees silver rigs in the parking lot and asks if Daddy is driving one. Jennifer says no, says Daddy is gone, says he's not coming back. But she's wrong. Marcus comes back every night, drives past their house at 70 miles per hour, heading west, always west, his silver face reflecting streetlights as he passes. He can see them, see Jennifer and Maya sleeping, can count Maya's heartbeats, can measure the exact westward component of Earth's rotation that carries them through space. He just can't stop, can't turn, can't do anything but drive west forever, one more direction in a universe of directions, one more vector pointing toward infinity, one more piece of westbound growing larger as it consumes miles and drivers, and anything foolish enough to try to deliver it to an endpoint that cannot be reached. The cargo is still in transit, will always be in transit. And Marcus Chen is the truck, is the cargo, is the direction, is the road. He is westbound now, and westbound is eternal. If you're driving I-84 at night and you see silver headlights in your mirror, don't slow down, don't stop, don't let it pass you. Because westbound consumes everything in its path, converts everything to direction. And once you're direction, you can never be anything else. You can only move west, forever, always, without end. Story 9, The Frequency Hitch. The hitchhiker vibrated at 17 hertz, and Angela DeLuca could feel it through her steering wheel before she even pulled over. Standing on the shoulder of Highway 287 in Montana, 3 hours past midnight, thumb out, the figure shook with a frequency that resonated in Angela's bones, her teeth, her optic nerves, not shivering from cold, vibrating, oscillating. Like every molecule in their body was trying to occupy 2 positions simultaneously. Angela's rig was a 2019 Kenworth loaded with medical supplies bound for Calgary. She didn't pick up hitchhikers. Company policy, common sense. But her hands turned the wheel anyway, her foot hit the brake, and the truck pulled onto the shoulder 300 feet ahead of the vibrating figure. She sat there, engine idling, watching her mirrors, and the hitchhiker approached with footsteps that fell at exactly 17 impacts per second. A rapid staccato that sounded like a drum roll. And when they reached her passenger door, Angela's hand, moving without her permission, unlocked it. As the hitchhiker climbed in, man or woman, Angela couldn't tell. They wore a gray jacket, jeans, hiking boots, but their face was wrong. Not deformed, not ugly, just wrong. The features were too symmetrical. The skin too smooth. The eyes too precisely spaced. Like someone had created a human face using only mathematics and forgotten to add imperfection. "Thank you," the hitchhiker said, and their voice vibrated, every word carrying harmonic overtones that made Angela's sinuses ache. "I've been waiting for someone who could see me." "See you," Angela's voice came out steady despite the terror building in her chest. "You were standing on the highway. Anyone could see you." "No," the hitchhiker said. "Others pass through me. Their eyes slide around me. You're the first in 347 vehicles to actually perceive my presence. That means you're resonant. That means you can help." As Angela should drive away, should tell them to get out, should do anything except sit here having a conversation with someone whose molecules were visibly vibrating, whose edges blurred and sharpened in 17 hertz oscillation. But she couldn't move, couldn't speak, could only listen. "I'm trapped at 17 hertz, the hitchhiker said. "My frequency got stuck. I need to reach 21 hertz to transition. Will you take me north? I can feel the resonance getting stronger. The further north we go, the closer I get to transitioning." Transitioning to what?" Angela managed. The hitchhiker's smile was perfectly symmetrical, perfectly wrong. "To the frequency where I can finally stop vibrating, where I can be still, where I can die." As Angela put the truck in gear, started driving, didn't decide to, just did, her body operating on autopilot while her consciousness screamed warnings she couldn't voice. The hitchhiker settled into the passenger seat and their vibrations synchronized with the engine's idle, and Angela felt the resonance in her spine, in her skull, felt her own molecules starting to oscillate in sympathy. "Well, what are you?" she asked. "I was a sound engineer," the hitchhiker said. "Worked on experimental audio equipment for the military, infrasound weapons, frequencies below 20 hertz. They affect human biology, cause fear, nausea, organ damage. We were trying to weaponize 17 hertz, the brown note of pure terror. I was running tests, calibrating equipment, and something went wrong. The frequency inverted. Instead of projecting outward, it collapsed inward. Into me. I've been vibrating ever since. 3 months. 91 days. 7,764 hours." As Angela's hands gripped the wheel tighter, "Why norths?" "The magnetic field," the hitchhiker said. "Earth's magnetic field is stronger near the poles. It interacts with certain frequencies, changes them, shifts them. If I can get far enough north, the field might push me from 17 hertz to 21 hertz. 21 is the frequency of cardiac arrest. My heart will stop. I'll die, finally." "That's insane," Angela said, but she kept driving north, couldn't stop. The resonance between her and the hitchhiker was strengthening, their molecules vibrating in harmony, and she could feel it changing her. Her vision started to blur at 17 beats per second. Her heartbeat tried to match the frequency. Her lungs stuttered, breathing in 17 rapid gasps instead of smooth inhalations. "You're starting to resonate," the hitchhiker said, and they sounded pleased. "I knew you would. That's why I could finally be seen. You're compatible. Your natural frequency is close to 17 hertz. Being near me is pulling you into synchronization. Stop it, Angela said. Get out, I'll let you out right now. You can't, the hitchhiker said. We're locked, resonant coupling. The only way to break it is for one of us to change frequency. And the only way I can change is north. So we keep driving, you help me die. And maybe, if you're lucky, you don't resonate so hard that you get stuck at 17 hertz too. Angela tried to pull over, tried to force her hands to turn the wheel. They wouldn't obey. The resonance had grown too strong. She was moving in perfect harmony with the hitchhiker, their vibrations synchronized, and when two systems vibrate at the same frequency, the stronger one dominates. The hitchhiker had been vibrating for 3 months. Angela had been vibrating for 10 minutes. She wasn't strong enough to break free. Highway 287 stretched north through darkness. No other traffic, no towns, just empty Montana wilderness and a road that seemed to go on forever, and with every mile, Angela felt herself changing. Her thoughts started to stutter, breaking into 17 fragments per second, each fragment a complete thought that died before the next could finish. She couldn't maintain continuous consciousness, couldn't hold an idea for more than 1/17th of a second. Her identity fractured into rapid pulses, 17 Angelas existing in sequence, each one slightly different, each one dying and being replaced 17 times per second. It's beautiful, isn't it? The hitchhiker said. The fragmentation, you start to understand that consciousness isn't continuous, it's just rapid updates, frames per second, and when you vibrate fast enough you can see the frames, can see the gaps between thoughts, can see yourself being created and destroyed and created again over and over, and you realize you were never really continuous at all. You were always just a series of moments pretending to be a person. Angela tried to remember her daughter's name. Sarah, no Sophia. No, the name kept changing, 17 different versions of her daughter, 17 different memories, and she couldn't hold on to any of them long enough to know which was real. Had she ever had a daughter? Was that a real memory or just one frame in the stuttering sequence of her fragmenting identity? The vibration was in her bones now, her skeleton oscillating at 17 hertz, and she could feel the calcium crystallizing and decrystallizing in rapid succession, her bones becoming less solid, more fluid, existing in quantum superposition between states. She looked at her hands on the wheel and saw them flickering, there and not there, solid and transparent, flesh and something else. We're getting close, the hitchhiker said. I can feel the magnetic field strengthening. It's pulling at my frequency, tugging it upward. 16.9 hertz, 16.95, 17.02. It's working. You're helping me die, Angela. Thank you. How did they know her name? She hadn't told them, hadn't spoken it, but of course they knew. They were resonant. They shared vibrations. They shared thoughts. They shared identity. At 17 hertz, there was no boundary between self and other. They were one oscillating system. Angela's vision fragmented completely. The road ahead split into 17 parallel roads, all slightly different, all existing simultaneously, and she was driving on all of them at once. 17 versions of her truck occupying 17 positions, and she could feel each version vibrating in harmony with the others. A chorus of Angelas and trucks and highways all pulsing together. The hitchhiker's face was changing, or Angela's perception was changing. She could see through their skin now, see the vibrating organs beneath, the heart pulsing at 17 beats per second, the lungs expanding and contracting 17 times too fast, the brain firing in 17 synchronized bursts, and beneath that something else. Something that wasn't biology, machinery, equations. The hitchhiker wasn't human anymore. maybe never had been. They were a frequency made flesh. A wave function that had collapsed into matter but never stopped vibrating. 18 hertz, the hitchhiker said, and their voice had harmonics, now multiple frequencies speaking simultaneously. 19, 20, it's happening. The magnetic field is pushing me up, shifting my frequency. Angela, I'm going to die now, and you're going to keep vibrating. You're going to be stuck at 17 hertz forever because I'm taking the magnetic boost with me. I'm sorry. I needed someone to resonate with, someone to hold the lower frequency while I climbed to the higher one. Oh, you were perfect. You were compatible. You were doomed the moment you saw me. At 21 hertz, the hitchhiker's heart stopped. Angela felt it stop, felt the moment their cardiac rhythm hit the resonant frequency of arrest, and the hitchhiker smiled, perfect, symmetrical, wrong, and then they stopped vibrating. A complete stillness. For the first time in 3 months, the hitchhiker was motionless, solid, real. And in that stillness, they began to decay. Rapid decomposition, flesh turning gray, skin splitting, bones visible beneath, as if the vibration had been the only thing holding their body together, and without it they collapsed into the 3 months of death they'd been postponing. Angela screamed, tried to. The scream came out in 17 pulses, a rapid stutter of sound that hurt her throat, and she couldn't stop screaming, couldn't stop vibrating, couldn't do anything but watch the hitchhiker disintegrate into dust and bone, and then less than that, becoming a pile of gray powder on her passenger seat that vibrated in sympathy with her, even in death still resonant. The truck drove itself north. Angela's hands were on the wheel, but she wasn't steering. The resonance was steering. The frequency was driving. She was just a passenger in her own body, vibrating, fragmenting, existing in 17 states simultaneously. Her radio turned on, AM station. White noise, but in the static she could hear patterns. 17 pulses per second, the hitchhiker's voice, or what remained of it, speaking from the electromagnetic spectrum. Thank you, Angela, I'm free now, but you're not, you're 17 hertz forever, unless. Well, the voice paused, the static shifted. Unless you find someone compatible, someone who can see you, someone resonant, pick them up, lock them into synchronization, then drive north. Let the magnetic field push you from 17 to 20. Let your heart stop, die, and leave them vibrating in your place. As Angela understood, this was a cycle, a curse passed from person to person. The hitchhiker hadn't been human. They'd been human once, but 3 months at 17 hertz had converted them into something else, a frequency looking for release. And now Angela was the same, was becoming the same, would be the same. She pulled over, killed the engine, tried to get out. Her body wouldn't obey. The vibration had complete control now. She was 17 hertz. 17 hertz was her, no distinction, no separation. Days passed, maybe. Time was hard to track when consciousness fractured 17 times per second. Her truck sat on the shoulder of Highway 287. Other vehicles passed. None stopped. None saw her. She was invisible to anyone not resonant, her vibrating form existing in the gaps between normal perception. Until a truck pulled over, a freightliner. The driver climbed out, approached Angela's window, and Angela saw them clearly because they were vibrating too, not 17 hertz. 14 hertz, close enough to be compatible, close enough to see. You okay? The driver asked. Woman, 50s, kind eyes, resonant eyes. As Angela's passenger door unlocked, get in, she heard herself say in a voice that stuttered and pulsed. I need help, please. The woman hesitated, then climbed in, sat in the passenger seat where the hitchhiker's dust still vibrated. And the moment she sat, Angela felt the resonant coupling begin. felt the woman's 14 hertz start to shift upward, pulled by Angela's stronger 17 hertz, and Angela started the truck, pulled back onto the highway, drove north. "Where are we going?" the woman asked. Angela couldn't answer, couldn't warn her, could only drive, could only resonate, could only pass the curse forward because that was all 17 hertz could do. Vibrate, resonate, spread. They drove through the night, through the day, through time that meant nothing to fractured consciousness. The woman's vibration increased, 15 hertz, 16, 17, lock, synchronization. She started stuttering, started fragmenting, started becoming what Angela was. And Angela felt her own frequency begin to climb. 18 hertz, 19, the magnetic field pulling her upward, the woman holding the lower frequency in her place. 20, 21. As Angela DeLuca's heart stopped. Perfect resonant arrest. And in that final moment of stillness before death, she felt relief. 3 months of vibration ending, 3 months of being a frequency instead of a person over. She decayed, fell apart, became dust that the woman would carry north until she found someone else. Someone compatible, someone who could see. The woman drives Highway 287 still, looking for the next resonant person, the next compatible frequency. And when she finds them, she'll lock them into synchronization, drive them north, let them hold 17 hertz while she climbs to 21 and finally stops. The hitchhiker is always there. On Highway 287, between Calgary and Great Falls, always vibrating, always waiting, always visible only to those whose natural frequency is close enough to couple. If you're driving north through Montana and you see someone on the shoulder standing perfectly still but somehow blurring, their edges uncertain, their features too symmetrical, don't stop. Don't look. Don't let them lock onto your frequency. Because once you resonate, you're trapped, 17 hertz forever, until you pass it forward, until you find someone else, until you drive them north and climb to 21 and let your heart stop. The frequency never dies, it just changes hosts. And Angela DeLuca, somewhere in the gray powder that blows across Montana highways, is still vibrating, still resonant, still waiting in the spaces between perception for the next compatible soul. The 17 hertz, the frequency of fear, of vibration, of being trapped between existence and non-existence, of being seen and invisible, of being alive and dead simultaneously. Listen to your car, feel the vibrations, count them. And if you ever feel 17 pulses per second, pull over, stop, get out, and run, because the frequency is contagious. And once it has you, the only escape is north. Always north. Always 17. Always vibrating. Story 10, The Refuel Loop. Thomas Ackoffer pulled into the Love's travel stop at exit 112 on I-40 in New Mexico for the third time that night, and this time he noticed the clerk was bleeding from his left ear. Same clerk as before. Brad name tag said mid-30s, thinning hair, but no blood the first 2 times. Thomas was certain. He noticed details. Had to driving cross-country, staying awake, staying alert. The blood was new, fresh, running down Brad's neck and soaking into his red Love's polo. The 70 on pump 8, Thomas said, handing over his card. His fuel gauge read 1/8 full. Same as the first time, same as the second time, he'd fired. Led up both times before. Watched the numbers climb, felt the truck grow heavy with diesel, but the gauge didn't move, never moved. And now he was here again, exit 112, same Loves, same clerk, new blood. Brad took the card without speaking, ran it, His hands were shaking. The blood dripped onto the counter, dark drops that didn't spread, didn't soak into the laminate, just sat there like beads of mercury. "Are you okay?" Thomas asked. Brad looked up, his eyes were wrong, the pupils too large, almost black. "This is the third time," Brad said. "You've been here 3 times, same night, same order. You don't remember the first 2 times, do you?" To Thomas's skin went cold. "I remember." "No," Brad said. "You think you remember, but you don't remember this." He pulled up his sleeve. His forearm was covered in tally marks, dozens of them, cut into his skin with something sharp. "This is how many times you've been here, not 3 times, 47 times, and I've been here for all of them, watching you forget, watching the loop reset, and every time it gets worse." So Thomas grabbed his card back. "You're crazy, I'm leaving." "You'll be back," Brad said. "In 37 minutes you'll pull up to pump 8, you'll come inside, you'll order $70 and I'll be here, I'm always here, I can't leave, I tried, 47 times I've tried, the door won't open, the loop won't let me go." Thomas walked out, got in his Volvo VNL, started the engine, pulled onto I-40 westbound, his hands were shaking, his fuel gauge read 1/8 full, he'd just paid for fuel. Where was it? Where did it go? The highway stretched empty. 3:47 a.m., no other trucks, no cars, the refinery on the south side burned bright, flares lighting the darkness. He'd seen those flares 3 times now, same flares, same pattern, same chemical glow. His odometer read 1,847 miles from his start point in Oklahoma City. Same as before. He'd driven 30 miles since leaving the Loves, watched his odometer climb, seen 1,850, 1,860, 1,870, but now it read 1,847 again, like those miles had been erased, like he'd been reset. So Thomas's phone rang. His wife Grace, he answered. Tommy, her voice was thick with tears. "Where are you?" "I-40's west of Albuquerque." "Why?" "You've been gone for 3 days," Grace said. "You left Monday, it's Thursday. You said it was a 2-day route. The company called, they can't track your truck, your GPS isn't transmitting. Where are you?" Thomas looked at his clock. 3:52 a.m., Thursday, March 17th. He'd left Oklahoma City on Monday, March 14th. 2-day route, should have delivered Wednesday, should be home by now. "I don't know," Thomas said. "I'm driving, I'm on I-40, I'm making progress, but something's wrong. I keep ending up at the same Loves, the same exit." "Well, what exit?" "At exit 112. Silence on the line. Then Grace's voice, very quiet. "Tommy, there is no exit 112 on I-40 in New Mexico. The exits go from 108 to 117. There's no 112. Thomas looked at the signs. Exit 112. Green sign, white letters, New Mexico Department of Transportation logo, real, solid, there. "It's here," he said. "I'm looking at it." "Tommy, listen to me," Grace said. "You need to stop, pull over, wait for help, don't keep driving, something's wrong, you're not where you think you are." The call cut off. No signal. Thomas looked at his phone, no bars, no connection. But Grace's voice came through anyway, distant and broken. "Tommy, please, you have to," then static, then nothing. His fuel light came on, 1/8 tank, empty in 30 miles. Thomas took the next exit, exit 112, same Loves, same refinery flares. He pulled up to pump 8. Brad was at the counter, the blood was worse now. Both ears, his nose. His eyes were crying blood, red tears tracking down his cheeks. 48, Brad said. He was carving a new tally mark into his arm with a box cutter. Your loop 48, welcome back. Well, what the hell is happening? Thomas demanded. We're stuck, Brad said. In a loop, a refuel loop. You run out of fuel, you stop here, you fill up, but the fuel doesn't stay. It gets erased when the loop resets. So you run out again, come back, fill up again, over and over. And each time the loop gets shorter. First time you made it 100 miles before reset. Second time 90 miles, third time 80, now you're down to 37 miles. Eventually, you'll be stuck at the pump, perpetual refueling. Forever. Thomas's heart was hammering. Why, what caused this? You, Brad said. You did. You stopped for fuel you didn't need. Your tank was 3/4 full, but you stopped anyway. Habit, routine, and something in the universe noticed. Noticed you taking fuel you didn't need, noticed the inefficiency, the waste. And it created a loop to punish you, to trap you in the act of taking. Forever taking, never consuming, never using, just taking and being reset and taking again. Oh, that's insane, Thomas said. Oh, is it? Brad pulled up his shirt, his. The torso was covered in tally marks. Thousands of them, overlapping, scarring. I've been here for 6 years. I was a customer like you, stopped for fuel I didn't need, got trapped. The loop expanded to include me because I served you, because I facilitated your taking. Now I'm stuck here, bleeding, counting, waiting for the loop to either end or consume me completely. Thomas backed toward the door. Brad moved faster, blocked his paths. You can't leave, Brad said. Not without fuel. And if you take fuel, you reset the loop. That's the trap. You need fuel to drive, but taking fuel resets you. So you drive until you need fuel again. Come back, take fuel, reset, forever. Well, there has to be a way out, Thomas said. There is, Brad said. He held up the box cutter. Break the loop, die, that's the only way. I've tried 47 times, can't do it. Survival instinct too strong. But you're new, you might manage, cut deep, bleed out, die before the reset. Maybe that works. Maybe death is outside the loop. Thomas ran. Straight through Brad, who wasn't solid anymore, who was just a memory, just a recording playing back. And Thomas burst out of the Loves into the parking lot where his truck sat at pump 8, hose connected, fuel flowing. The numbers climbed, $23.47, $23.48. He tried to pull the hose out, it was fused to his tank, wouldn't disconnect. The fuel flowed into his truck and his gauge stayed at 1/8 full and the numbers kept climbing and he understood that he couldn't stop refueling. The loop had him. Would keep him here at this pump taking fuel forever until his credit card maxed and the transaction failed and then what? Would he be stuck at pump 8, hose connected, unable to pay, unable to live, unable to die? Thomas got in his cab, drove away. The hose stretched like rubber, like it was infinite. Like it was connected to something that wasn't the pump, wasn't the Loves, was the loop itself feeding him fuel that went nowhere, fuel that vanished the moment it entered his tank, fuel that was just an idea, just a concept, just the eternal act of taking without consuming. The hose finally snapped. Thomas accelerated 60 miles per hour, 70, his fuel gauge dropped 1/16 full, empty. The engine sputtered, died, the truck coasted to a stop. Its exit 112 was ahead. Same Loves, same refinery flares. He could see Brad in the window, could see him carving a new tally mark, number 49. Thomas tried to walk away. His legs wouldn't move, the loop had him, pulled him back, he was in his truck. Engine running, pulling up to pump 8, Brad at the counter, blood everywhere now, his entire face a red mask. 49, Brad said, you're close now, close to the center. The loop is compressing, soon you won't leave at all, soon you'll just be here, always refueling, always taking, always stuck. Thomas bought the fuel, drove away, made it 20 miles, ran out, came back 50, bought fuel, drove 15 miles back 51, 10 miles back 52, 5 miles back. The numbers climbed. The distances shrank. Thomas stopped trying to escape, stopped trying to break the loop. Just drove and refueled and drove and refueled and drove and refueled until the distinction between driving and refueling blurred and he was doing both simultaneously. His truck at pump 8 while also on I-40, his hand giving Brad his card while also on the steering wheel. His eyes watching the numbers climb while also watching the road. Brad was just bones now, skeleton in a Love's polo, still carving tally marks, still counting. 1,647, he said. You're doing well, most people break at 800, start screaming, start begging, but you're calm, accepting, good, that makes it easier. Thomas couldn't remember when he'd started, couldn't remember Oklahoma City, couldn't remember Grace, could only remember refueling. Exit 112. Pump 8, Brad's the loop, the eternal loop. His truck was at the pump permanently now. Engine running, fuel flowing, gauge at 1/8 full forever, numbers climbing forever. $847,293.67. $847,293.68. His credit card should have declined, should have maxed, but the loop didn't care about credit limits, didn't care about money, only cared about the act, the taking. The eternal refueling. Thomas's body began to merge with the truck. His spine fused with the seat. His hands became the steering wheel. His eyes became the windshield. He was the truck was him. And both were stuck at pump 8 taking fuel that went nowhere forever. Brad collapsed. His skeleton crumbled to dust. The Loves decayed around Thomas. Walls crumbling, roof caving in, but the pump stayed, always stayed, fuel flowing, numbers climbing. Thomas Aquifer is still there. Exit 112 I-40 New Mexico, an exit that doesn't exist on any map. A Loves that died decades ago, a pump that never stops flowing. His truck has become part of the landscape, rusted, overgrown, but the engine still runs, the fuel still flows, and if you listen carefully you can hear it. The hum of an engine, the click of numbers climbing, the sound of someone taking and taking and taking and never consuming. I'll never leaving. I'll never free. The loop continues. Other trucks appear sometimes, pull up to pump 8. Confused drivers asking about the exit that shouldn't exist. Some drive away, some are caught, the loop expanding, growing, feeding on the act of taking, the inefficiency, the waste. Grace reported Thomas missing. The investigation found nothing. No truck, no trace. Just records showing he'd stopped at a Love's that didn't exist and bought fuel that was never charged to his card. She drives I-40 sometimes, looking for exit 112. She's never found it. But sometimes, late at night, her fuel gauge drops to 1/8 full even though she just filled up. And she feels the pull, the loop calling, offering her a chance to refuel, to take, to join Thomas in the eternal taking. She drives past, always drives past, but the pull gets stronger. And one day she knows she'll see exit 112, will see the Loves, will see Thomas at pump 8 merged with his truck taking fuel forever. And she'll pull in, she'll stop, she'll take what she doesn't need. And the loop will have of her too. It always does. It always will. A forever refueling. A forever taking. A forever stuck. At exit 112. A pump 8. Where the fuel flows and the numbers climb and nobody ever leaves. Nobody. However,